Just reply to that email now.
All set?
Yep.
All right, hurry everyone, welcome to what will be a short meeting. Let's see, can we get a roll call, please?
Sure. Ash Shake.
Here.
Sarah Cornelli.
Here.
Ryan O'Connor.
Here.
Candace Whitehouse.
Here.
Chelsea Campbell.
Here.
Ben Hemphill.
Here.
Bob Broadus.
Here.
Lisa Cunningham.
Here.
And Adam Haid is not here. He may show up later.
Oh, that
You
poor
have a
guy, that's
quorum.
right.
Excellent.
Trying to get
I
her.
know he's gonna have fun rushing.
You confused us with a different order.
Well, it's because I forgot my sheet, so I just went around there.
Okay, so anyone have any issues with the agenda as written?
Nope.
Good to start? Okay. Public, sorry.
No, I just noticed my agenda's wrong. I moved it's not set up right. All of our items are listed under public comment as
Yeah.
opposed to general business. My apologies.
That's all right. I didn't catch it either.
It's on there at least.
So do we have any public comment before we get started? No? All right. Then let's get to business. I guess first of all, did anyone have any issues with the running draft? I don't think we had any major changes as of last week, and they were all pretty just procedural and wording based changes, so.
She did notice that the one thing I thought was the same was not. The 1205 versus,
Okay,
so she has a
3
comment
and
about that.
7 or something.
yeah. Okay,
I'm gonna bring up one minor thing.
that's fine.
Roman numerals again. But when I read Article 20 and I saw the XX, I thought it was a placeholder.
Yeah,
People,
You
So
know,
you're-
because there's
You're
no
against
other Roman.
yourself now.
people,
Exactly. No, we're doing all numbers and all Roman numerals.
people often think that
Yeah.
of the home rule section of the Constitution though.
I
Yeah, 'cause
do
it's
remember
XX.
So maybe-
when we discussed it, that was brought up.
So maybe in parentheses, it should be parentheses Article 20. Just minor, small suggestion, so that they don't think we missed something.
I think it's a reference to the state constitution, so I'm not sure if we're supposed to change how it's
Well, we don't
listed.
change it, we just
We
put
just put
parentheses,
Okay,
like it's done in other parts of the charter.
okay,
But anyway, that's totally minor,
yeah.
but it
No.
did catch me when I read it, I was like, oh.
It was annoying
funny.
for sure. Okay, so nothing else as far as what we did last week? Or anything else in the running draft? I don't think I had any notes taken through it. I'm sure we're good. If you all saw the meeting agenda or the meeting schedule we sent out, basically the next 2 or 3 weeks is gonna be all just full review. So we'll have plenty of time to go back and make edits and fix problems. So that'll be everyone's homework for the coming weeks, hopefully.
Who's bringing red pens?
Huh?
Who's bringing the red pens?
I don't, isn't there, there's a cup right there.
Some orange ones.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go to the general business, ethics and transparency section. So yeah, going through what other charters had done and how robust Louisville's charter was as far as this section as well. Most of what they had as far as ethics and code of conduct is already in our
Right.
town code. And so the only real change I had for this was I pulled in the section that was 308, which was just miscellaneous provisions or something about this section about code of conduct and ethics. And then I changed that right now it says adopt by resolution, right? Or, so I was thinking we could change that to ordinance just to make it so that any changes to the code of conduct going forward have to be properly noticed and allow public comment, so makes it a bit more public when city councilors try to change it. And based on our transition section coming into this, all current ordinances will carry forward. So our current code of conduct will become the basis of the town's code of conduct going forward. Anyone have any thoughts in general on that? Oh, and
Sounds good to
added
me.
a shall maintain an enforcement section as well, so. Cause I think as written, it had just said they'll maintain penalties, but without enforcement, penalties are meaningless, so. I think our current code already has the enforcement through the town prosecutor. so. And then, yeah, anyone thoughts or comments on any of that? I know I only gave you guys like 4 hours to review it.
It was very thorough, so.
Yeah, I know I'd seen some that were long, but I think having an ordinance of it.
Yeah, it keeps it easier, keeps the charter cleaner, and I mean, we have to have one, right? And that's what this says, we have to have one and.
Oh, shucks.
What?
I'm just kidding, that we have to have an ethics
Yeah,
section.
That was the point of this, is that we have to have one and like we'll make it a little bit harder for the city councilors to change it, so. Alright, and then just the transparency section. Just reiterating that we have to maintain transparency per state law and town ordinances and everything. And then number 2 was where I wanted to say some stuff, cause like we've talked a bunch of times throughout about how like when you post notice for a meeting, right, you make it easy to note, like you do it in some way that everyone can find it, there's legal definitions there, but then, you know, we've had this past week, Weld County posted notice of a meeting, a required public meeting in a postage stamp sized notice in a one local paper. And that was their public notice for setting district boundaries in Weld County.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's like, that defeats the purpose of public comment and, you know, required notification of stuff like this. So I was trying to figure out how the wording of 2 would work so as to say that we're not gonna do any of those shenanigans for, you know, any of our town processes moving forward. So, I don't know,
Yeah.
any thoughts? Ben, you said you had some potential thoughts?
Only on the code of ethics, not so much
Okay,
on
not this part.
the transparency. It's a little, I think it's harder because
Yeah,
it's transparent.
right,
Your transparent is different than mine. So
It's.
yeah,
It
that's,
needs to be a transparent that
Is there
can't be
a,
argued away.
is there a standard for public notices? I assume it would be.
Yeah, land use, they vary by it's a public hearing and by type of public hearing. I think some land use require 2 public hearings. We do a public hearing for our budget. But I think that requires 2 notices, and we notice in the local paper.
right,
Is it postage stamp
Can we
size?
say-
No, it's not.
Can we say something like follow best practices?
but I mean, again, that's very,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, well,
I'm trying
Weld
to think-
County uses this, so.
cause that's the
not
thing,
best practice.
they met the legal requirement though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, so that's why I'm trying to think of, I mean, obviously it would be like state of the art, but I'm trying to think of wording that.
That's why,
Wait,
that's why I've.
Are you questioning what you have written, or are you wanting to add to it? Cause if you're questioning what you have written, I think what you have written could accomplish what you were trying to say.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty much what I thought, like 2 is what is the best I could come up with, and I wasn't sure if that is like the legally enforceable, you know, if it has any sort of like weight to it, basically.
Well, I think if it doesn't, I'm pretty sure Hillary will be like, guys.
That or explain to her what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah,
Well,
because anything you try to write here, someone will find a way around it.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to leave it like, I didn't wanna put like hard requirements for what you have to do, and we've argued against that throughout, right? Where we didn't say like, this is how you will post the budget, right? We left that kind of,
Right.
it'll be provided by the town clerk. But throughout that, like we've had discussions on what we think that means, like how that should be done. And this was, I was trying to say like, how do we adhere to like the spirit of that? Like, we're not gonna make you go like dig in the back, like behind town hall for your, you know, packets on the budget if you wanted to read it.
But there is a there is a color.
Every article, like
It
that's
looks
what we
like-
meant.
It looks like there's a Colorado statute
For transparency, like,
for public notices.
right, but it wasn't just public notices, it was
No,
like
I-
throughout, yeah.
but we could make
What
it
he's saying
more
is it
strict.
did meet the legal
Right.
requirements and it was,
I I'd be surprised at reading this if it did.
What does it say?
What does it say?
So things like any and all legal notice or advertisement published only in daily, whatever, okay. There's like 5 different paragraphs.
We could revisit this, if Bob, if you find that section, send it out to us, and, I mean, we could
Yeah.
revisit that.
This is definitely a first cut, like for the other new sections we've had go backs on it.
Yeah, it's 2016 Colorado revised statutes, so let me just send this link to everybody.
Yeah, the idea here is that we don't wanna make like participating in town politics burdensome for residents, right? And that was the whole idea behind, making it so that the town clerk would help with petitions, not provide all the forms, but if things were wrong, it would provide feedback, which is not legally required, right? It's just, the legal requirement is if your petition doesn't meet the requirement, you reject and send it back. So the idea is we wanna make it easier for people to participate and make sure that there's no, town council trying to pull funny business throughout. So, I don't know, I thought over the wording a bit, but that was kind of the intent here. And then just, I think the enforcement penalties will follow whatever is in the code of ethics, because it follows a similar scheme, it's a similar idea behind both, right? You wanna be transparent and ethical.
How do you enforce transparency?
Well, if the way that the code of ethics is written now, if a citizen has complaint, they can file a complaint form with the town prosecutor.
Okay.
And the town prosecutor
This is the color.
can judge it and, investigate it.
Okay.
And so that would follow as far as, like, if we think they did something against this section, it would follow the similar process, you could file a complaint with the town prosecutor.
Makes sense.
I don't know, have you seen anything like specifically addressing like enforced transparency without like laying out, piece by piece what a town has to do to meet transparency requirements?
No.
No. So, yeah,
Not on transparency, on the ethics provisions in Louisville. I was looking for it in their charter, and it must not be in the charter, but they actually.
What?
Yeah, good question. That's why it's not there. What I was looking for was a training requirement, and I think they must have passed an ordinance that requires every new member to have training on the ethics provisions in their code or in their charter.
I like that.
Every 2 years, either upon their new appointment, or election, both board members, town staff, and council members. They actually have a by every other year training requirement, so that everybody's familiar with the terms.
or when it changes, if it changes. It can't change because it's in the charter.
Right.
Like what form does that training take, just like the attorney comes
Is
in?
it like onboarding or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of an onboarding process and then a refresher course, and typically they have Sam Light from CML or somebody else come in and do, they hire an outside counsel to come in and do a training session on sunshine law and executive sessions and code of ethics, and do kind of sample or hypothetical situations that might come up and
Like cybersecurity, like sending off $1 million to some Nigerian prince, right?
that would be different. That's what we do on a
Yes.
That's
monthly
IT,
basis.
That's monthly?
Well, town staff, we actually have, and you can't use your email unless you do.
Yeah,
we've done.
if you're a clicker, you have to take training, they'll take your rights away from you. And actually, you guys should have all had to
Yeah.
do the training.
Yeah.
Anybody with the town of email, your email or something.
That entertaining series.
Yeah, well, actually, it's
And they
kinda
didn't
cool.
finish, I don't know what happened. I was fully invested in this relationship.
I know, I mean,
Alright, I had a hard time understanding what they were saying. dying. I was like, turn it up, what?
I actually
She's
watched
access.
more videos than I needed to because I was so invested.
They got the future seasons on YouTube.
Oh,
So
do they?
yes, we do have
Sorry.
cybersecurity
Yeah.
training monthly. And
Clicker
if
training
you
and-
click when you're not supposed to, then you get an extra.
They fish us, they send us things that we're.
I've gotten a few of those. And
Are those actually test emails?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll go right in the trash.
I wondered, I was like,
I threw
why
about
are
everything.
you
Like the-
notified about this?
the travel one? Did anyone else get the travel one?
I got one that was like
I got, like, a
UPS was
travel.
delivering or
Ah.
UPS was delivering something to me and I was like, why is UPS sending something to me for to the town? Like,
Mine was something about a travel itinerary. Here's a PDF, please open the travel itinerary.
Oh, theirs are easier than ours.
Well, I mean,
We don't have
my
access to
my
those,
email's
so
been
yes.
active for like 2 months. Sorry, what was that, Malcolm?
That was an aside.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have cybersecurity training.
So I mean, it might be worthwhile then to say that all counselors and town, or relevant town staff will be trained on the ethics and transparency provisions and just kind of have it as like an onboarding training.
I did think it was in their charter, but it's not. and
Okay.
So maybe it's in an ordinance or it's
so
a
paper.
policy they have,
Okay.
so.
Okay, well, we can discuss that. We can figure out, like, Hillary still hasn't weighed in on this, so I'm sure she'll have plenty to say.
I just sent out another link, and one of the things they include in transparency is campaign financing.
So that was kind of my like a carry-on. I was wondering if we would put it in here or in the election section. But I know that we have, like, the campaign financing rules as they are kind of lax.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's no like post-election filing requirement and things like that, so. And there's only like, how many, there's like 3, right?
Well, we had
There
to
is one
do a
after.
post-election,
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
we
That's
did
right.
post-election filing.
But there was only like 3, there's like one way before, one like 2 weeks before, and then one
Right.
after.
I think there was 4, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think, yeah, the idea was that having more would let people know.
Well, I don't even think it's a matter of-
Yeah, I was just,
I don't think it's a matter of the number, I think
Yeah.
it's a matter of the content. I personally think things like dark money, as much as possible, should be limited.
Yeah.
You should know where the money's coming from, and
Then we,
Didn't
We'll see
Hillary
what's-
say that's hard to do in the charter?
especially because of Citizens United, which is a federal law, kind of co-opts a lot of that.
I know,
when is that gonna end?
next court case that overturns it, which
It
will
has such a
probably be-
pretty name though, Citizens
It
United.
sounds good. For all
Anyway.
it is.
Anywho,
Yeah, we can.
so because of Citizens United, we can't put terminology in there. I mean, cause like we can only elect people for Erie that live in Erie. Why can't the money for these people only come from Erie? We can't word that, eh?
It came down, if I remember
It was
Hillary
freedom.
saying it was like freedom of speech, it was
Yeah.
infringement on freedom of speech.
Yeah, like election, like content or election like boundaries are in the Constitution as well.
Mhm.
But you can't restrict, even if people live outside of the town boundaries, you can't restrict them from speaking in the town. And money is speech,
Money is speech.
Yeah. so it comes
Well,
down to.
you
Bigger
have
than
like
it
the
should
weird
be.
situations where like your grandma lives in Florida, like.
Right, and
It's
wants to
support-
send, yeah, sends you
supporting your
$50,
campaign,
exactly.
yeah.
No, but we could do things, I think, like limit the dollar amount that can come in from a certain,
Well,
you
again.
get, people get around it by having multiple.
They would just have multiple
Is that done in this
donations,
charter?
yeah.
Huh?
Also, is that done in this charter? About all these dollar amount things?
No, that's, but we can say that
I don't wanna get too.
the town
off
count,
track,
no,
I
but
guess.
I wonder if
Thanks
we
for
can
throwing it
specify
out
that
there.
the town will by ordinance.
But we do, I mean, we are talking about this next week, are we not?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of,
Okay.
So we might wanna just put a pin in that and
Sounds good.
yeah,
we have a
cause
lot
thank you.
tonight.
but we do need to add that to our discussion. That was one of our go backs as well, as how to address campaign finance, so. As far as this section, I think we'll come back to it again next week. We'll let Hillary weigh in and see if she has any kind words to say about it.
And maybe we can look at the 2 things I sent out, I obviously did not have a
Okay.
chance to read them, so.
That's fine. Yeah, we've got time for that for next week.
Can you make sure to send those to Hillary and Malcolm and I as well?
Thank you, I just did.
But okay, as far as the rest of it, like, does the, I don't know, the format and content kind of match what people had thought or agree with?
Yes.
I'll ask the question, does anyone wanna move the code of ethics from ordinance in the charter? Does anyone feel strongly about it?
I feel strongly about having something in there
Yeah.
because I think when people are reading this and deciding if they wanna vote yes or no on this, it's really important that we have something in there. This is a very long document to
Yeah.
copy and paste
Oh,
and put
fair
in
enough,
there.
fair enough,
So,
but-
you know, that's maybe a little overkill, but this is both.
I think the reference to that we have an ordinance, I think is sufficient.
Because it was by resolution.
No,
So
it has to be by, oh, yes, sorry.
in this 308, it
Yeah.
was,
To be in the municipal code, that doesn't have to be resolution, sorry.
that's right. So, I mean, making it an ordinance makes it a bit more like, you know, one step up on the hierarchy.
Sure.
And so,
Do we wanna put anything in there that says like in order to change something on here, there has to be a certain
I think
vote, or
that
we good with majority?
I think that counts, like that falls under the ordinance, that's why I use the
Okay.
word ordinance, because it means
Gotcha.
they have to like
Got it.
notice it and they have to allow public comment on it, things like that.
But what you meant is, do you want more than just a simple
Like a
majority?
2/3 change to.
Two-thirds
something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there, I don't know if it's,
I don't,
if we need that
Or something like similar to how some places have like the changes to salary, where it doesn't apply to the people who are sitting. So they can't like change the
That's
code
Mhm.
and then,
Yeah,
you know,
be like, there
specifically.
is no ethics for us.
I mean, that might be worthwhile, like, so yeah, changes to, don't apply to the people who vote in, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd be careful with that in case they're making a change for good
Stricter,
reason that
yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
happen like soon.
Yeah.
You know,
For like
I
potential.
would hope that
Yeah.
would be the more common type of change as opposed to one
Yeah.
that strips it away.
That, I was thinking about that, but I was like, I had the same thought, it's like,
My
I
guess
don't know.
is that changes would probably not happen very often unless things are changing, like with technology and things
Yeah.
like that, and it's opening.
Like, when was the
new
last
doors
time
for
ours
stuff.
was changed?
The code of ethics?
Yeah. I know there was a section that was reviewed.
1975.
It's right here, it's actually 2008.
Okay. So it's a fairly stable document.
Yeah.
I think freezing it as it is, and then requiring changes from now on to be noticed and treated as real ordinances, I think that makes it, that's the right amount of difficulty for future changes. We don't wanna make it impossible.
I like it too.
I feel good about that.
that's fine, yeah, I just figured
Yeah.
I'd throw it out there while we're here.
No, it's,
Well, this is good, this is like when we spitball and brainstorm, right? You guys bring up a lot of stuff I didn't think about, so.
And things like, well, when technology changes,
yeah,
there's probably.
needs to be some
To the
flexibility.
code of conduct.
Yeah, when meetings will be virtual holograms in the middle of it, like Star
Kicking
Wars.
the bag.
People will be
Yes.
dead,
It felt.
still.
Still giving their opinion. Based on our AI, this is what this person thought on this
This
issue.
person got frozen before they actually died, so in 20 years when they unthaw, they still have a seat.
Okay, we'll get some feedback from Hillary hopefully, and we'll see if anyone else has any thoughts. It's still open for discussion, and we'll definitely have time to talk it through future weeks. Alright, time for the big one?
Did we want to, so I had homework for my sustainability board, did we want to go over
Yes.
that first?
I would love
Which
that.
part?
About the water commission,
Yes.
water stuff.
Oh yes,
I was
please,
just
we
flat
hadn't
out.
talked about that.
So
I talked about it an hour before I came.
the short answer is not everyone on the sustainability board would want to be on the water commission currently. And it's my thought, I'd want buy-in from everyone before signing them in. Some of them showed interest in potentially being on a water commission, and I feel like there'd be some overlap. So that's the short answer. The big concerns were the complexity, And people signed up to be on the sustainability board with the expectation of that workload, which
Yeah.
is
fair.
nowhere near as much as a water commission would be. And there's not as much knowledge that needs to be learned to be on that. So the sustainability board currently does not want to do that. I think we're still evaluating it, but I'd say we keep it separate. One idea that came up was, like, we talk about water a lot in the sustainability. So the water commission could talk about something and then work with the sustainability board, how that would work.
Yeah. I see they would be
sort of
like
thing.
parallel, or maybe it would be a subset, cause you said like,
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I didn't think you guys would form a water commission, sorry for interrupting. I was thinking more or less that water would be on your radar in the recommendations that you give.
The hard part is that another point I think trustee Hoback brought up is since water is so critical, it may overshadow all the other sustainability goals that the
Ooh, that's
board's
a good
trying to
point,
do.
yeah.
So it loses the focus potentially.
Yeah.
So
You guys wanna hear my probably unpopular opinion? I was thinking long and hard about it, and if we're gonna have an open space and trails commission in the charter, that opens the door for all kinds of commissions in the charter. And I don't think we should have any, and you did a lot of work, and I'm sorry. That's just my opinion, and I'm willing to hear everybody else's,
I don't think
but,
that's an unpopular opinion. I kind of feel that way.
yeah.
I feel like we went in with really good intentions with this water thing, and we found out that we were a little over our heads.
Yeah.
And I think we probably should just leave it to the people that.
yeah, cause last week we
That's
did,
that.
we found out last week that there are a lot of already like kind of set in law processes governing water. And so I was trying to think like what role would a water advisory board even play in that process, right? Cause there's not a whole lot of space already from what I understood.
I think it's more to be the knowledge of the town, and so that the board or the councilors don't have to know it. They lean on their advisory board.
Right,
So-
but again, that's like a super high,
It's pretty important.
the thought I had there was if they're already experts in like water law and water issues, they're probably working full-time somewhere else. So I don't know if we'd have trouble staffing a knowledgeable water commission.
Well, people probably thought the same thing about the Airport Economic Development Board. And they ended up with having a lot of experts sign up for it. So I'm not saying you're wrong,
You don't need to
I'm
be an
just saying
expert, you just need to be willing
Interested.
to
research.
Yeah.
research and figure it out.
But
So it's
I
a
think
time.
I think it is just so complex though. I think
It's-
it's farly more complex than any of us expected.
Yeah.
And way more complex than any of our other.
Cause it's adjacent to like legal
Yeah,
legal
there's
issues.
there's a lot more into it than
Yeah.
I realized
Like
initially.
airport economics is different than like water as far as like criticality, scope and legalities, right? So
Anyway.
Yeah.
I just don't think we should say we're not gonna find anybody unless we,
that's true.
I don't want that to be the reason
Yeah.
for not doing it, that's all I'm saying. I have a few friends who are actually water lawyers,
Okay,
and
and
so.
they'd be willing to do
No,
something.
no, they're not.
And they can never die.
No, I mean, there are law firms that
Yeah.
that are 100% dedicated to water.
Yeah.
So I totally agree, it's super complex. But getting back to what Ash had said, I'm not sure what that advisory board would do.
Like what would
I think that's more important.
Take a look at a few other, if you care to,
Yeah.
take a look at a few others that resident recommended. I mean, it was
Yeah.
5 or 6 cities, and it's interesting to see what they do as commissions.
Yeah, she's on,
But
yeah, yeah.
that was just,
And Katie works with another town, so, for doing water stuff. So, and I believe it's a paid position. In fact, I would be shocked if it wasn't, because she thought it was a conflict of interest to talk to us about some things. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So given that, it's another reason why
it's
I think it'd be very, I think you're right, it will be hard to staff, I just don't want that to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, for me, it's more along the lines of like, what role would they play in the existing process? Like, from what Hillary was saying about how everything goes through, there really isn't a lot of space to insert like citizen advisory.
Right.
I mean, maybe before that whole process she talked about starts, but even then, like, then they're doing the research and who has available water rights and what to do with them and what we should go try to grab or, I don't know. It seemed way more complex and out of the scope of a citizen advisory board from what
I mean, the town has a water lawyer,
Yeah.
water attorney that works with Todd for Public Works, so.
I feel like it's fairly well covered.
I think it would be akin to creating a commission for a legal commission, because most of the issues are really legal and financial issues.
Yeah.
And, you know, we spend a lot of money on water
Yeah.
attorneys.
Yeah.
And I think the board members, when they have any questions about things, that's who they go to.
Yeah.
And those people spent decades in dealing with water issues, so they're.
So would a legal commission save us some money?
No.
Oh.
I don't think it would.
Only if they were volunteers pro bono, right? Yeah, okay. I'm willing to discuss that further, but I think it would be beyond the scope, I guess, of an advisory board, a citizen advisory board, as far as water. We can, I'll admit I haven't gone through the other references in cities that were in the email yet, but we can do some homework and we've got several weeks coming up to discuss stuff like that, so.
I mean, you could leave it as 2/3, simplify it to that.
For the vote,
Approval of the sale.
yeah. And just make it harder to sell from the council's point of view.
I like that idea.
Did we already put that in there, or would that be a change that?
I think it was already in there.
Well, it had been a vote of citizens, but we all agreed that that was overkill.
I wasn't sure if Hillary's updated it.
Yeah, I'm looking now.
Yeah, this is updated as of last meeting.
So it's 10.
But I don't know if we told her for
Oh,
sure
right.
that that's what we wanted.
True.
Yeah,
Okay,
she just
now
has-
Well,
She's a new
it still,
comment.
it doesn't hinge, nothing else hinges on this, so that could.
I do think that's a good compromise though.
You can go to one, because we've set up several thresholds for votes already. We can just throw this under the higher one.
So would we take out, well, right now it's the sale or final disposition, excuse me, of water rights shall occur only after ordinance following a public hearing, is how we left it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think putting in 2/3,
I feel like she told us a reason why that was okay, and I can't remember why.
and so she's talking
Because the
about
public
waters.
hearing,
Yeah,
Public hearing and notice, but then like not putting the higher threshold even, but
oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
We can revisit.
yeah, we'll revisit this one. Right. Did anyone else have homework? I don't think. Lisa, you said you haven't been having luck getting in touch with any of the high school, yeah. Okay. Then yeah, let's move on to the big questions of the week.
I'm ready.
Alright, so before we start discussing, I wanted to just do a show of hands. So if we're all aligned, we don't need to, belabor it and discuss it, but
I was thinking the same thing like 2.5 seconds ago. Thanks for saying that.
read your mind.
You did.
Okay,
all
even and odd years, who's in favor of even year elections for the town? Odd years?
You get
We're
that.
even.
We're definitely deliberating
Yeah.
that one.
Well, you do have Adam's vote too.
Yeah, Adam's got,
But I mean.
Yeah,
fine.
but
But
still,
it's
that's so
close, it's
close, we
not-
gotta
yeah,
talk about it.
yeah, talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then districts versus at large, who's in favor of districts?
on the
I'm gonna
fence.
vote. I have a different
Okay.
proposal here.
You want
so-
discussion,
So I get
yeah.
to, I'm gonna
Yeah.
vote for
You do
both.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
we're
with you.
on that one. Okay.
Okay,
I have a few points
I
that we
think,
should
yeah,
discuss.
let's make it then. Okay, so let's start with the even and odd years. So
Excuse me.
kind of along the line, so my own thoughts as far as even and odd years was, for odd years, you get less partisanship and more focus on local issues. And I feel like those two things outweigh the negatives of getting like another ballot throughout, you know, a 4-year cycle, right? It also combats the ballot fatigue that you'll get if there's a million questions on an even year ballot. So those were my big argument. That's where my final consideration came down to.
Mine was pretty similar in argument for odd years, because I favor odd years. And on top of that is you talk about how there's less voter turnout on odd years as opposed to even years. Well, you can watch less voter turnout happen on even years if you have a ballot that's too big. You can literally watch the votes dwindle. The same thing with a poll. People will respond to the things that they know about, whatever, but then as they don't know about things, they're just like, no idea. But on an odd year, if it involves focus, they actually pay attention. So as far as less voter turnout in odd or even years, I would argue if you go down the ballot, it's less voter turnout anyways.
So my feeling on the even years is that I think that it would be beneficial to have the higher voter turnout. The ballot fatigue, I couldn't find anything relating to ballot fatigue in mail-in ballots. Like, I was thinking ballot fatigue and someone standing at the poll
I
and
get that, okay.
and you're going down this list, just done, going in circles. But with that, you're at home and we've been voting by mail for years.
And you have a month to do it.
You have a month to do it,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, and even if you vote in person, you usually come in with your ballot already completed and handed in, or your sample, right, and you're like just.
Well,
It's been
in other
so
cities,
long.
you don't get any of that. You
Oh,
have,
really?
you have to like go up there and they'll like bring up the ballot on a computer and you have to go through and make all your
I'm
selections.
always an early voter.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the
I wish
days
I
of
could say I was
punching,
a-
I'm not that old.
Well, Texas is the other way, like it's all in person. They do early voting, but it's still in-person early voting. So you have to go to a ballot place. You like show your voter registration card and all of that, and they sit you in front of a machine or stand you in front of a machine and you just go down the ballot.
Yeah, so in that
That is in
instance,
Indiana
I would just guess that ballot fatigue is a very real thing.
Yeah.
With mail-in ballots, it's a good.
Yeah, I hadn't switched context on that.
But even then, I feel like you can see or ballot fatigue expressed when you look at the issues that we voted on of like longer ballots that we've had. Historically speaking, you go back and as you go over each issue, you can watch the number of people who voted on that issue just dwindle. You know what I mean?
Like in this case, for us, we had fewer votes for the home rule question and the commissioners than we did for the TNAC question.
Exactly, yeah. And that
I
might
don't know
just
if
be a
that was
lack of.
fatigue as much as they just didn't know
No.
what it
Yeah.
was, so they didn't
Yeah.
wanna vote
Yeah.
because they weren't familiar with it.
Which you can argue that odd years would be just fine because the people that know and care will be the ones that are voting. You know what I mean?
I have an opposite argument for even years.
I wanna hear it, I do, I wanna hear
I'm
it.
waiting my turn.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like Boulder changed to even, and I don't know if you guys read the Tim, is that how you say that town's name, Timnath? They just updated their charter, and granted, it probably was more favorable that they changed their elections from even in April to even in November. So that's a weak argument, other than it was 3,500 votes in favor of changing to even November and 500 against. I mean, they were overwhelmingly supportive of even year elections.
I would imagine that was more moving to November.
And agreed, there's
Oh, yeah.
that's why I mentioned it, cause it would be not,
Thank you.
I need to,
So fair.
transparent.
Transparency.
Transparency.
Good job.
So,
Don't make me bring the town prosecutor in.
Just need the gavel.
Are you done?
I think, I'm sure we'll be
I'm not committing to being done.
I'm just gonna what he said. No, I'm kidding. I actually agree. I didn't think of some of those things, but yeah, and also just when we look at our polls that we did within town, it was overwhelming. I printed it and it's giant, so everyone can see. I didn't mean to do that, but 64% to 35%. And I know, look, I know.
He's been doing that since we got here. It has nothing to do with
I
the
had a
poll.
headache for like 4 hours.
But yeah, I feel like even years we're just gonna get more turnout and that's pretty important, especially if we move to districts. I think that's gonna be huge.
Why?
Because you have a smaller group of people, you're narrowing
You're putting them in buckets and
Yeah.
the
voter
larger the
pool is
full,
smaller.
yeah, the larger the
Yes,
full
thank
pool
you.
is, the better quality you'll get in each bucket because there are more people.
Go ahead.
Yeah, same kind of lines. I support even years. I can understand the partisan piece some. That's probably the major hesitancy I have with even years. But in the end, I side with the most turnout. Like, when is it gonna be the most convenient for me, a busy mom who like works 2 jobs and I'm sure there are others like this in here that just have very busy lives, and during even years, you can't ignore the election. It's on the TV, it's on the radio, it's signs everywhere outside. And if there's a time I'm gonna miss a ballot coming in the mail, it's a lot more likely to be an odd year than an even year. Because that even year, I'm already invested. I'm probably invested in some larger elections, and I will invest myself in the smaller one as well, because if I'm voting on it, I'm gonna care about it. So all of that, that considered, I feel like that turnout piece is gonna be much better and therefore more representative of the population on an even year. That's my thoughts.
And on the piece on partisanship, because I have speaking of partisanship, I have a woman who lives next door to me who's a good friend now and is also a conservative, retired lawyer. And when I was picking her brain for thoughts on this, she had told me there's always gonna be partisanship. It doesn't matter what freaking year it is.
Yep.
So that did weigh, even though I am saying I want odd years. That did weigh on my mind that, yeah, that partisanship's gonna be there no matter how hard you try to avoid it.
Although I will say, we're killing it.
I think we are.
I mean, really,
We are.
I do think so.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been on the odd year train, I think, most of this time. I think the partisanship is probably the biggest argument for it.
It's not as in your face that it's an odd year.
If it's in the odd year, it's not cited. Although, I know we've talked about ranked choice voting. In my mind, that gets rid of a lot of the partisanship. So, being able to do even years and ranked choice, that would be something I'd be happy with. I'm in favor of odd years. I'm not as hard stuck in it as other things that I have been.
That's where I'm at.
But I think if we do even, we need to find a way to change the way people vote because it's too partisan. And like I brought up in the public comment, our last election was effectively a 2-party election.
It really was.
It's a nonpartisan election.
Is that gonna stop just because, and I'm in favor of odd years, I'm just,
Yeah, like that, you're right, though, like this was already an off year, April election, it was already hyper partisan, so it's like,
Yeah.
is that gonna change if we go?
I feel like that 2-party dichotomy is in the culture of this country. So, I mean, I feel like in almost any election, especially if you're far on one side or the other, you're gonna say, okay, I don't care about any of this, who is on my side? Who is on the right, who is on the left, and I think, I may be more annoyed by one side or another during even years because of all the ads you see, but overall, if you're gonna pick a side, you're probably gonna pick a side.
I feel like if for the odd years, and to Ben's point with the lack of partisanship, while the partisanship will always be there, I feel like you're more likely to talk to your neighbor at the mailbox on an odd year, as opposed to listening to what an advertisement blasted across the TV is telling you.
What's that like? To walk outside to your mailbox? Guys, can somebody tell me what that is? Is that like, that's like
Hey, my mailbox is like
Next
4
level
miles out
stuff
the road.
here.
I still walk to it.
Alright, since you brought up mail,
Okay, can we?
I was thinking of something, should the return envelopes be postage paid?
I don't think that's what we do in the charter.
Yeah.
I'm just asking,
If you're,
Use the
you,
Dropbox.
you cannot, I don't know that,
cause some states do it.
but
Came
the
across.
counties will be doing the election.
And
Oh, we don't, okay, so
We
we
will not be doing the elections.
Oh, okay,
That's-
That's the
okay,
point
Of moving
that's-
the number.
okay,
Right,
okay.
that's
when
like
it's my turn, that's something I
It
need to
doesn't
talk
matter
about.
if it's odd or even, right?
No, it may, that's what I'm gonna talk about.
All right,
She's
let's-
telling you it doesn't.
It does not-
But now you have the floor,
Well,
if Ben's done.
there you go.
I had one other thought, but I'll come back to it when I remember.
I'm sorry, Ben.
Let me twiddle my thumbs for a second. Alright, so one of the concerns is Erie is split between counties, which means we typically are in a coordinated election. According to Secretary of State, generally the November odd year election is referred to as the coordinated election. And so I'm wondering if there's an issue with us trying to do, and I don't know,
No,
Okay.
they coordinate all the elections.
okay. I prefer odd years, but again, like Ben said, I'm not super strong on it either way, I'm not going to, so. Districts I'm worried about when we get to that, about the impact that'll have on getting the charter passed.
I'm not worried.
Okay, wait, just,
I'm
Let's
just,
fin- let's
I'm
finish.
adding,
Let's finish the even discussion.
I don't think even odd is going to be something significant enough, it's going to cause issues with charter passing. So, of all the things we're talking about, I think it's, I don't know, I don't think it's a big deal to
The
me.
lowest impact of passing.
One other thing that I think is a plus for even year is because it'll make, and this isn't a deciding factor, but it is a factor. It will make the transition a little bit easier.
I thought we were gonna do a special election anyway.
I think that's one of our discussions.
Well, it's one of the discussions.
Can I raise my hand?
But
I know I was trying to have a normal conversation, but I'll raise my hand. As far as easier, I'd mentioned that I was speaking with my retired lawyer friend, my dear friend. And when I asked her on the issues of districts, cause I was arguing in favor of at-large. I was set on districts, I know we're not there yet, but she brought it up, this is her fault. And then I leaned in favor of districts again because she says it doesn't matter how difficult or how much it costs. Our democracy, everything that we are, depends on representation, and the districts help ensure that. Yeah, and that's why I was like, okay, districks, but
except
anyways.
for Old Town.
We'll get
They
to
don't-
Our problem child.
Oh no, there it comes.
Okay, that's it.
Lisa,
Can we finish our even odd year?
yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Alright, ready? Hang on, let me get one.
There you go.
Okay.
Odd or even years, not districts.
Oh, okay. So this whole time, I have to admit, I was hardcore odd year. And literally up until about 2 hours ago, even I was still like, odd years. I found this article from a website called newamerica.org. I don't know anything about them, just this particular article. And it was written in November of 21, and it was kind of interesting. They talk about one of the reasons that they went to odd number years was to try to get away from all this politicization that we've talked about, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the downside to that is it in some places creating more difficulties for certain segments of people to have access to voting. This I found to be really interesting. It says presidential turnout in presidential elections over the last 50 years or so has been the 50 to 60% range, while in the midterms you get high 30s, low 40s. These levels may be well below the OECD average, but they frequently outperform participation in off-cycle elections, particularly municipal elections that don't coincide with any state or federal contests. A 2016 report on city election turnout found turnout was below 15% in the 30 largest cities, but that turnout for on-cycle elections is twice as high on average. Famously, when Baltimore aligned its local elections to presidential election years in 2016, voter turnout jumped from 13% to 60%. Another state that has had consistently low municipal election turnout was New York City. There was a spike in turnout this year in the primaries, but that could be a novelty effect of the state's introduction of ranked choice voting. They're talking about the ballot showing up in your mailbox. It says, if you see a ballot show up in your mailbox, you're more likely to vote in lower profile elections.
And we
That's
do
what
have
we do
that.
for everything.
Yeah.
So, reading through this, I flopped. And I think, and I did post my very unofficial post on Old Town Erie, but it wasn't like a yes or no, it was like a hey, give me your feedback. So I'm not sure how people cheated in that one. But I only got three people to respond if it's helpful. But the 3 people who did respond were all consistent in that they wanted even year. I did speak with my 2 voters in my family. They also said even year. So I think it's likely that we will get a better turnout. I mean, we know numerically we're gonna get a better turnout in even number of years. And I think there's something to be said for that.
This is my bad, but do we know, like, I can't remember what our voter turnout, ours have been historically low regardless, like in the for just any election.
They're not, I have those, I don't have my computer with me, so but we keep those records. It's not actually as low as you guys think it's.
So I have the vote totals from 18, 20, and 22
Okay.
for Erie.
Okay.
So total votes in 18 was 7,006 out of ballots sent 15,000, which had
So
45% participation.
That was our highest one, I believe.
In April?
This is all April. In 2020, it was 6,200 with 18,000 ballots sent. So 34%. And then 2022, our most recent, was just under 8,000 with 21,000 sent. So around 37% participation.
So
Do you have the November?
Also looking at April versus November.
This
Yeah.
is
It really
Yeah,
is, but what
yeah.
is our
This is
November
histor-
turnout?
This is just historic Erie municipal elections, because that's what I asked.
Yeah, that's what
Many months ago.
that's what we gave you. We have not, since we don't run the elections in November, we don't like notate those, we can get them, and we probably have them in our files, but like,
Google it.
you might be able to, yeah. But given that, you know, we run these elections, we actually track it by day, even how many we get in the mail. So we,
But yeah.
and actually that is actually pretty good turnout, as you'll hear from what they get, we're 15%.
Yeah.
45% was really high.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Sorry.
2018 you said, right?
18. You might not actually find Erie stuff online. That's why I had to ask Amy for it.
Oh,
because-
gotcha.
Well, that's the April elections we run.
Yeah, but it wasn't easily available online.
Yeah, you're-
No, that's, we take
You'll
it down
have to,
after the
like-
election's done.
You'll have to like dig down into like districts and
You'll have,
like
at the
precincts.
Secretary of State's level.
Yeah.
Because they have to combine both the counties before we get our results.
Yeah, one comment I had on Lisa's article, a sentence that really popped out to me was don't coincide with any other state, county,
Yeah,
That popped up.
other
That's
elections.
what it's-
that'll be likely on
Hey,
yours, right?
y'all, if I may, Gabby is listening to us and she is on her computer right now. So our turnout in November of 2022 for the Charter Commission and the TNAC was 76.8%.
76?
Whoa.
Okay, that's an argument.
Oh, nope, it was in this week's county update from Boulder County,
Yeah, there were some interesting things to that update.
so,
76% turnout for Erie,
well,
In November of,
in the
An even
November
year.
one.
November of even.
that's a lot.
Alright, case closed.
But we don't have any data on ours.
We don't have any other, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The thing is like, how often would we have ballot questions that don't have any other like state or county level questions for like an odd year election?
The counties, Debbie and I looked, and historically, the counties have run elections every year.
Okay.
As far back as, we went back decades.
There's been something on a county election.
But I mean, yeah,
Does the town have a preference, town staff?
Does it matter?
Yeah, how do the different years affect town staff?
November, that's our ask.
That's a given.
That's everybody in Erie's ask.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Anything that, in my mind, encourages voter participation, that's where I come down.
That's,
That person.
I mean, I think we've heard everyone's arguments as far as even and odd, and I know for some people, the arguments tie into the district question, so we can move to the district discussion as well, so. Lisa, we can start with you on this one. Go backwards around that.
I sent, I think last week, again, thanks to Ben for his handy dandy little tool that he created for us. Running some different numbers, I know that some of the concerns that I have heard within our own charter, within within us, is that there's the concern of with the growth that we're expecting to see in the area, that we're experiencing and expected to see, there's the concern about how frequently will we be to redistrict. And I believe that in my very rough drawing of districts and lines, I think I was able to figure it out in such a way that would make it relatively equal and would not probably need to cause a whole bunch of redistricting lines, especially if we're doing 3. It kind of gets pretty big chunks of town. I can see if we were doing smaller districts that need to possibly redistrict more frequently. But I think if we're looking at 3 districts, and I had a 45-minute conversation with a resident today specifically about districts. He was an Old Town resident, and he repeating back everything that I've been saying for the last 3 months. He knows that we're frustrated that we don't have representation. And I told him, and I want to vocalize this here, I recognize that if we do decide to move to districts, all of this effort and energy that I have expressed to this group and to the rest of the citizens of town, it's not going to be for anything if we as Old Town residents do not start standing up and being present. And so I reiterated that to him, so that he was also aware of, this is if we're going to go through this energy and this effort of trying to make sure that we get representation, it's important that we actually step up and be the representation that we want to see. So I will die on this sword. But I in my heart of hearts, in my stomach, in my mind, and everything that is in my being, I am of the opinion that districts are the way to go.
Would you mind sharing where you were drawing those lines?
Well, I tried.
Is that okay?
You
If
said, yeah.
I sent.
Yeah, you did send
You
that.
had a PDF that just had a line.
It did because
Do you wanna draw them live?
Yeah.
no pressure or anything.
Wheel of Fortune. Dictionary.
Can you paint a happy little?
Yeah, I sent
District.
the
Happy little voters.
Oh my gosh. I think we all agree the lines go like this though, because that avoids partisanship.
it wasn't
As
super
opposed to
pretty.
this.
Actually, you'd be surprised.
As long as they're contiguous, that's the big number.
They are well, yeah, they're.
I don't think.
Well, and that's why Westerly is getting in there, so I think even if I would be surprised that line that everybody gets hung up on doesn't matter,
Yeah.
no matter how you draw it.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay. Sarah, will you come be my Vanna White?
Oh, me? Alright, what am I doing?
Hold that for me.
Oh, you're gonna draw on the map, oh, I love it.
Okay.
This is fun.
This is a lot of pressure. This is what I get for putting my.
We
It's
can-
just us.
We can continue,
Okay.
we can continue thinking of,
So,
hearing other
I'm
people's
having
opinions.
to guess, I'm trying to remember.
Lisa, do you want us to just continue our discussion while you draw, or do you wanna talk through it?
Yeah, no, keep discussing.
That's fair.
Yeah, Bob?
Alright. I prefer districts, but I have 4 concerns that are significant
Okay.
that we need to work through. One is, based on what I've read, districts are probably too small for proportional voting to really work. And so if it's gonna be one or the other, my preference is actually more proportional voting than it is for districts. But, so that's a concern. The other is the things I sent out about adverse effects of districts. Which I don't feel is gonna happen as much in Erie, because candidly, Erie's not a very diverse population.
Word.
I'm sorry?
She agreed with
She
you.
agreed.
Alright, the candidate pool will be, I think, smaller for districts. But I don't have a strong data background, I don't have strong data to prove that one way or the other. And then the other concern is, and this could go either way though, the chance of this causing the charter to be voted down. Overall, I'm in favor of districts, I really still am, but I don't think we can do districts and have proportional votes, so
You mean like ranked choice?
ranked choice, yes.
Hey, Adam's here. Can you get the?
Oh, yeah. Wait, hold on.
We should leave it
Are you
locked
gonna
and be like, you're late.
I'm not letting.
Wait, is that what's going on right now?
We're talking about
No, what?
districts.
Yeah.
We haven't
We're doing
decided
the
on
district
district,
discussion.
so don't worry.
Okay, there's a chair over there.
Don't forget your name tag.
We won't know who you are otherwise.
Hi,
So,
everybody.
I think
Yes.
Such passion
So
and
we're
dedication.
just starting to go over
districts.
Okay.
districts rather,
Yeah.
and Lisa's drawing her, the way she had gotten districts drawn.
And I'm Vanna White.
I just came with four points,
Oh my gosh, put it over here, what, I'm shivering.
You can have all of it.
Give it to me. You didn't bring me a hamburger today.
So,
Didn't see Dennis, sorry.
so Adam, my point is, I have 4 districts, but there are 4 points that I'm worried about with districts. One is, I don't think we can do ranked choice with districts, I think it'd be too small. I'm worried about, the thing I sent out that had adverse effects, but I'm worried about that. Candidate pool, I think, would be smaller, and so filling vacancies and things. And the chance of it voting the charter down, which could go either way, since we're so split, it seems, between the two. Overall, I still like district. I think we have to consider the other things when we're making the decision.
Okay.
I have a question, probably more for Ben, because you've been super passionate, have had great arguments for ranked choice. Even if we did stay at large, then it makes it easier for ranked choice, don't, even when we go to 60,000 or whatever, I mean, isn't that kind of a small pool for ranked choice as is too?
There's, so ranked choice is a broad term. There are many ways
Okay.
to do the math behind the rankings.
Mhm.
The most typical one is called instant runoff, which is what everyone assumes ranked choice means, but it's like squares and rectangles, every square is a rectangle. Yeah, not every rectangle is a square. So ranked choice voting is just you rank the people and then in the background other math happens. So with instant runoff, which you generally do for like a mayor position or that piece,
Like single position.
yeah, single position, you would do, if you don't get 50%, then you go to the rankings and then those votes get distributed and then it's done. We could be like Brighton and just do runoff elections, I'm sure town clerk would love that. But that is effectively what you get out of doing. Instead of doing a runoff election, you save everyone's time and money and you just instantly run off based off the ballot. With the proportional voting that Bob's talking about, which if everyone was at large, the typical one is called single transferable vote, which does give good representation. So if we're 60% one way and 40% one way, the board should look like that. That's kind of what happens with this big proportional voting. So that's why a lot of people are proponents for it. And it more represents what the town's doing and it's not a simple majority. So that is why I've been so,
And it does work better when you have
when you have larger districts with more representatives.
Right. If you're doing multiple election, or electing for multiple
Which-
positions at one election, that's where single transferable vote really shines. Because it allows you to, like, the proportion is something like number of open positions divided by total number of votes, and that becomes the percentage of votes who like did not get counted essentially. Whereas like with a first past the post, you can essentially have 49.99% of all votes not count, right? They just never
You
do.
can have even more than that. If you have 5 people running for one position,
It's
you need
true.
20% of the
Right.
vote to win.
And so like,
That's why I've been so against that.
exactly. And so for like when you have single transferable vote, it goes the other way, right? If you have multiple positions, then the way the math works out, like there's a much smaller number of those votes which didn't count, right? That didn't have a say in the final result.
Yes, and I do have one last thing I was gonna say, I forgot to say.
Yeah.
Which is, there is, I'm wondering if it's too much of a weasel wording thing, but another possibility we could do is in the charter, put in districts, but start with one district. And then leave it up to ordinance to further subdivide into districts down the road.
That was my line.
Was it? Okay. It could have been,
That's the Tim's charter.
yeah.
That's what they did.
That's where I read
Yeah,
it
they-
from somewhere, but yeah,
they-
so.
There shall be districts and there shall be one district.
No,
There shall be districts, number of districts set by ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah, so like we would
Yeah.
set, in the charter, we would set the district, which would be the town of Erie. And then we would put in provisions on how the council can expand
Right,
or
yeah.
create new districts.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal it from you.
No, that's fine.
No.
Well, I mean,
I like to be
someone's
credited
reading
for
maybe.
I think Lisa's ready.
So this isn't perfect, but this was just kind of an idea. Using more so the population, I was able to get it relatively even. It doesn't look as nice, don't. But this was just kind of an idea of an example of what it could look like. And I was talking with, I had another resident message me today, and they had suggested 3, mid, north and south or something like that. But when I was looking at populations and groupings of neighborhoods, this was an approximation of how I was able to get it to be somewhat contiguous and even, approximately 33% in each district.
And it keeps.
And Grandview can't go in, because I really like the Erie Commons and Old Town being grouped together.
It is
If we could
so,
throw Grandview in there, you're
Well,
talking.
Grandview, so I originally, so just so you know, cause I had Grandview originally lumped in, but then it threw the numbers off and it
Did
wasn't
it,
even.
Okay.
See, that's what happens to Grandview and Vista Point every time there's a new elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those neighborhoods
I've been
keep
dealing
getting,
with it, I
my
got a father,
kid, yeah,
yeah.
was going to 3rd grade, going to his 3rd home school.
Oh, jeez.
So
It's a
yeah,
side subject, but that's
Right.
the
So,
kind of thing where
I
those
mean,
smaller neighborhoods
again-
can get shifted back and forth.
It is,
Just
this
to make
isn't
the numbers work.
perfect, this isn't perfect, but this is at least a rough draft, at least a visual of it's possible, okay?
Yeah.
How it
I'm
could
not
work.
saying that this is 100% the
Yeah,
way to
we're
go,
not gonna draw
this is
No,
great,
but
I
it's
just,
just-
I
it's just a
wanna
visual
get-
example.
This is a visual of at least, hey, it is possible.
Yeah, so maybe what we can say is have a redistricting commission that is formed, like some, a lot of them do that. Say there's a redistricting commission that's no later than 6 months before
It's
the
all,
election.
if you read through theirs, it's pretty detailed on what how they
Right,
do their districting.
Yeah. agreed.
I think, yeah, we need to continue this discussion before we go down to that level of
Yes.
detail.
Yeah.
Your turn, Ben.
So my thought, 3 districts is the simple answer. Part of it is having a representative that should represent your area.
Mhm.
At large, right now, at a town of 30,000, it doesn't feel too cumbersome. I feel like I could talk to any of the counselors, or I guess trustees currently. But as we get larger, it starts becoming, we're this big, we stay at large it's a big mass of people, and you don't get that feeling that you have someone to talk to. You have everyone to talk to, which may be no one. So having that district say, hey, I voted for you, and you're in my district, I'm gonna raise my point with you and I need you to be my advocate on the council. So that's one of my big arguments for having that district. I mean, we're already putting districts in the state. We don't vote for every house member. So everyone here lives in multiple districts. So it shouldn't be that cumbersome. I am worried about Bob's comment of making the pool smaller, but I think Erie is big enough and it's growing.
I mean, the numbers we had for the last November
I mean,
election
we
was
had
20.
20,000 ballots sent out, which is divided by, there's 7,000 eligible people per district to run. And that seems reasonable to me.
You may have more people interested because maybe people may feel like they have a better shot.
Yeah, so those are my, I do like the districts. We talked about there, you could even rank choice the districts. It's a single, because we'd alternate.
Yeah.
It is a single election, so everyone would,
It would be instant runoff.
it'd be instant runoff voting for the districts. So you lose that proportionality, which is a thing. We do invite in possible gerrymandering, which is a significant issue, but I think the districts are worth those possibilities. So those are my thoughts.
So Adam, I know your email, you said you were in favor of odd years. It was actually 5-4 in favor of odd years, taking your count and your vote into account. We had a really long discussion about that after that.
Okay.
And I guess, yeah, there was a lot of, the big gist of it is turnout is significantly higher in even years. And Brian brought up the point that a lot of the studies about voter fatigue or ballot fatigue have to do with when you're standing at a polling location and physically having to go somewhere and fill it out, which doesn't apply to us, because you have a month to fill out your ballot. And yeah, you'll always see like fewer votes as you get down the ballot, but that happens in small ballots too.
Okay, so my response to that is I am more concerned about the national politic rhetoric that will be going on during that time, and the even more likely assignment of political parties to candidates, even though our candidates are supposed to all be running at large or not with a party. It will be a lot more easy for people to say, well, you gave me this opinion about climate change, or you gave me this opinion about transportation here in Erie, and you must be, and then fill in the blank. And whether they are or not, that will cause problems for candidates that are attempting to just be what's right for Erie, for their district, or for at large. Ballot fatigue, I hear you. I do think that it's, this is my own research, or at least experience. When you get all the way down, I am excited to vote for the Erie things. So I'm not fatigued by the time. Actually, I usually fill those out first, and then I go backwards and I do stuff. But I watch what my neighbors are doing, and what friends of mine are doing. And they call, they go, what? I don't know what's it. By the time I got here, I didn't even understand. What is a home rule commission? What is, why does it matter that we have open space tax? What is that all about? And I just vote yes and yes. And then, So I think there's so much information being sent to people that unless they want to pay attention, which not many people do, or they're gonna be distracted by the bigger, what they think are bigger issues, even though, you know, my argument is local issues are bigger issues.
They are,
I think everybody here would agree with
we do agree, local issues are where it matters.
We're kind of a biased group.
So,
We're,
yeah, that's my argument for odd. I'm not coming off it, but I do understand that even it does have plenty of reason to carry.
So going into that discussion about districts especially, if we're going to odd years and we do districts, we're cutting down our voter pool even more because of turnout. And so that is a consideration as well that was brought up. Yeah, we're on you anyway, so bring up your.
Well, districts, the number one point is that it equals out the representation. It levels the representation across town for people who can more closely speak to the things that are going on in their neighborhood. And this is our attempt to help an old town, an Erie village, get someone in, an Arapahoe Ridge, get someone in that, you know, may not have made it through on a everybody against whoever, everybody against everybody type of thing. So I think that point outweighs the others. I do realize it's a smaller candidate pool, potentially a smaller candidate pool, potentially smaller voter pool. However, strange example, the Carbon Valley Rec District, it serves, the recreation center serves 3 different towns, and they are all less populated than all of Erie. The sum of Frederick, Firestone, and Tacona are all less populated than just the sum of Erie. And they have 3 districts for each town and a couple at-large positions. And they always have people, and this is the rec center, they always have people show up. Now, there's much less voting because, you know, you gotta care about the rec center and have to go vote for it. But there hasn't been a problem getting a candidate to show up and run.
It also, are we finished?
Oh, yeah.
Another advantage of districts is it makes campaigning much cheaper,
Absolutely.
because you really can you have to only focus on a subset. And that's another pro for districts.
I don't buy the gerrymandering argument. We're not designing this for a party. There's no way that one section of the town is different enough that they're going to get representation that will be so against what another section of the town would want. So while the word gerrymandering might kind of apply when you say, well, there's more people here right now until the 2030 census, and so they have a bigger candidate pool or something. But it's not to the degree of Republican versus Democrat type of thing. We need to guarantee we're gonna get more of one in office versus another.
well, and even if there's more people in one district, every section or area, town, however you divide it up, is going to have 2 people representing them. You know, I mean, so one district has more people voting for 2 people than another. It doesn't mean they have less representation, they're gonna still have 2 representatives representing them on the board, in my opinion.
And then they have the ability, what I like about that is the turnover is, you know, there is an incumbent or a senior who has already been on the council for 2 years when the new one comes in. So once things are rolling, and so you don't have like 2 brand new people that don't really know what's going on. Like that happens in the current trustee thing, you get 4 brand new people potentially. And that almost stalls things while they're trying to figure out how to run a meeting.
That's a huge learning curve.
Yeah, and it is a huge learning curve. So at least you've got someone holding your hand from your district that can help you. And you know, potentially there's a mayor at the same time, but you can't do anything with that.
And I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with how we've been like talking throughout where the bar for mayor is higher, like for getting on the ballot is gonna be higher, right? So it goes hand in hand with smaller districts, smaller number of signatures.
I think sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, I think there is a related point that we were gonna come back to the compensation for board members, and I think there is something about attracting more people with a larger compensation, whatever that number turns out to be, than we currently pay, in order to also increase that candidate pool. So if candidate pool is still a concern, we have something tied in that potentially addresses that. Or we potentially have something in that addresses that.
Chelsea.
I have no new argument that hasn't already been made. I am for districts for the same reason that these people are, so that's all.
Yeah, we didn't do the straw poll at the beginning of districts.
For districts. Who's in favor of districts?
I thought we did.
We did.
It was like
did,
4 to
because
5.
I
That's right, we had two hands.
I wanna do both
That's what we
hands.
just
It was
said.
like, it was like 7 and 2 halves. and something.
Exactly.
So most people are in favor of districts, so.
Yeah.
I think everyone is, it's just how we're gonna get there.
Yeah, so
And when should there be districts? Should it be now or should it be 10 years from
You
now?
are stomping all over.
Oh, sorry.
Chelsea, are you done then?
Oh, yeah. That's it. Thanks.
I'm just kidding, you can totally take
No,
the
go
floor,
ahead.
because I think I have the exact same argument that you do. I am 100% in favor of districts, I think it's great, I think it'll be wonderful for Erie. I am nervous that this is not something we should implement yet until we've kind of leveled out with our growth. That's my only concern. If we can figure out ways around that, then I'm all ears, but I worry that redistricting every 2 years as we grow so quickly is confusing for voters, it's confusing for candidates, like, oh, I was planning on running and now I can't.
Where did you get the 2 years?
Well, I don't know, I'm just
It's
saying.
just an estimate, cause
I'm just
nobody
saying.
knows, it's gotta be
Yeah.
based on percentage of growth.
So if
Right.
like as
It could happen in 2 years, shit, look at
as Westerly grows and fills up, it might shift that
But I
district.
thought we had to have census information to do that.
No.
That's-
Oh, you might not have been here, but Hillary removed that.
You weren't here.
Yeah, Hillary removed that wording from
The
our
one
running
other
draft,
meeting you missed.
and she said that there's nothing legally tying redistricting to census data.
Oh,
So we can trigger it off of our own internal data, GIS data as we get it, projected growth, internal,
Yeah.
population tracking.
have we discussed that? The trigger?
No, because
No.
we were
Yeah,
waiting on this
we were
discussion.
We were waiting on this
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah.
Alright,
Like
alright.
everything else is hinging on.
But I thought we were close, that it had to do with getting out of proportion by a certain amount.
Percentage, it's a
Yeah.
percentage,
Percentage,
that's
for
true.
sure.
But someone has to be watching those numbers.
Yeah, who's counting the population to calculate when that percentage
Well, we
threshold is
get
crossed?
I thought we got data from the state every year.
You do?
They
have to have projected
do
growth.
updates on population, but
Somewhere.
also our building department is tracking building permits and
So they
actually has
always-
an internal estimate of population increases.
Awesome.
And we got the.
And we can
A
like
building
Hillary-
permit doesn't equal a number of
living there.
people.
Ye-
You can
Yeah, you can
interpolate.
extrapolate it based on
Extrapolate.
averages of.
That was Hillary's argument of why the census, cause the census is thorough
Mhm.
and building estimations is not.
But letting districts get way out of proportion, 10 years is a long time for us, which is.
Is it?
Yeah, which is
that-
my point, so
Yeah.
that's my only concern, I'm 100% for districts, I'm just worried about implementing them too early. That's all.
So I don't know if you guys did read that Timnath information I sent you. And what they did, and it's a week or so old now, they laid it out for districts. And they said at the time that the charter signed, it's one district.
Yeah.
So it's there, the map is there to add districts as needed. And it kind of got me thinking, does anyone remember Golden Run? I knew he would.
Yeah.
So Golden Run was a development that was Erie annexed 300 acres. And it was supposed to be a high density area of, I think, 38,000 people.
It was an idea.
Yeah, I know, but it gets you thinking like, okay, what happens if something like that happens in the future? Another district should be added. Or should,
I don't think
I
we
mean,
should
that's-
preclude the expansion of the number of districts based on some terms.
And I don't want us, I would caution us about what if this, what if that. you know, what we talked about in the beginning, this charter is important and it should be written in such a way that it stays relatively stagnant, but it's not so stagnant that it's written in stone. So if we find that we need more than 3 districts, or we need a little more flexibility in the districts,
Yeah,
then follow the procedures to, you know.
you tell a Golden Run developer, you come in, that's fine, but you're gonna trigger a redistrict, and so that's gonna, you know, you gotta get
Make
that
them
vote,
pay
you
for
gotta get that voted, that's a vote of the citizens.
And it was something that had got me thinking, like, should we even say 3 in there? Or should we, you know,
I think.
A lot of charters define,
Huh?
a lot of charters define the number of districts.
a lot of them do, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But
But the
there's gonna be a lot of growth in our future.
I think we have to allow it to become flexible or to change in the future.
But,
But we need to put those.
and I feel stronger about even year elections than I do about this whole
Districts.
district thing.
Interesting.
I
That's
actually
just-
do too.
It's, so. That's kind of, you know, if my feeling would be to kind of model something after the Timnath. Go into this with 1 district, allow it to expand in the future. But-
I guess, yeah, you'd wanna make sure that the triggers were set
Mhm.
so that like the council couldn't just start adding districts willy-nilly in.
There was something in there too about that, and they actually did amend their charter, I mean, the charter is 8 years old, I think, now.
Mhm.
And in this past November, they had 2 amendments to the charter.
Yeah.
Being related to the districts.
Am I up?
You're up.
Okay, so in the matter of districts, Bob had expressed concern about the charter not passing because we want to put districts in there. I would argue that it's more lucrative to have districts in the charter. Because, go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, go.
No, okay, are you sure? That's okay, I mean, cause I'm all about conversation.
What I said is I could see that going either way.
Gotcha. But, okay, so as far as it going either way, I would argue that it's more lucrative. I actually make a habit of talking to strangers and talking to people of all backgrounds. It's a forte of mine. And I can tell you that the people who are knowledgeable and whose opinions matter to me, no matter what side of the political spectrum they land on, want that equal representation. They want it. And so I would argue that having the districts in there, it would make the charter more lucrative. And then somebody had mentioned the difficulty that's involved. If we put districts in as we go, oh, we're gonna have to redistrict and all that. But it got me thinking, it's imperative that we have districts as we grow. Because somebody who's living in Erie Highlands, that's already got everything built up around it, is gonna be less vested than somebody, say, you know, if something else is outside that district and something's growing, like somebody in 2, as we grow north there or something like that. You want representation where that growth is happening because I feel like it'll make that growth more responsible. So I would argue that yes, it might be a little bit of a headache to have to redistrict and look into it, but having that equal distribution as we grow so quickly is super important. So anyways, still in favor of districts.
Okay.
Yay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so I was also in favor of districts. I mean, you guys have made all the points. My concern also is with how fast we're growing and how quickly we need to do redistricting, especially in the short term. So I don't know, I was thinking of ways you could trigger the provision that now we create districts and begin our districted methods of elections and.
Right, like set the first one on the 2030 census, so you have some time to grow into
Yeah.
it, and then maybe a
'Cause what are-
percentage or something.
Do you know what our projections are as far as growth by 2030?
70,000.
Not offhand,
Okay.
60, 65 is more like 2040.
65 was 2040? And that's near like fully built out or
Yeah, I think 65 to 75, somewhere around there is full build out, but full build out is always can stretch.
Yeah, it's a
based
moving
on
target.
Redevelopment.
What were the projections for us to hit 35,000 or wherever we're at now?
We're at 35,000 now.
So what were the original, does anybody know what the original projections were when we were 15,000, 10,000?
We bought here in '01 and it was 6,000,
Yeah.
and I don't remember at that time.
6,000, but I mean, that's
It
like
was-
quite the.
By the time I started in 2007, it was 11,000. So in 6 years, and then we leveled off for a while, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah, cause I don't think it started growing like crazy till after 2008. Well, after the recovery of 2008, yeah.
Yeah, Vista Ridge bumped it big, and then Colliers and
Dr. Cog
Highlands.
just, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
Dr. Cog just published a really great data set that you can go in and look at Erie along with any other municipality, and it shows at least how it's grown in the past. It doesn't have projections, but
I like looking back at the past though.
yeah.
Past performance.
I was thinking the same thing.
Future something.
Returns or.
Yeah, let's see, it's got both population and employment. So it's grew over 2011 to 2021, it grew 63%.
So I did pull census data way back
The other
when,
2 years.
in 2010, so the 2010.
concern.
That's my concern too.
The 2010 census for Erie was 18,100. 2020 census for Erie was 30,000, that was 65% growth. I think I just did a simple extrapolation to 2030 and that's 50,000. If we
That kind of
maintain
lines up with
65% growth.
That kind of lines up with 60 to 65 is the projection for 2040.
But, oh, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I guess we are generally growing east, right? All new stuff, is there stuff growing in the north too?
Park Hill, and you got Morgan Hill.
There's definitely some things in
Spring
there.
Hill.
It's
I
where we're
guess
not landlocked.
Parkdale down in the
Parkdale.
Parkdale's gonna, yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of is offsetting the other growth that's happening in the other directions. So right now, we're kind of expanding out, but I doubt we're getting more land in Boulder County. I don't know much about it, but I haven't seen new houses going up on that side in a while.
Yeah, I think the Parkdale
Those are
development will
nice.
add to that. If it was drawn that way, Parkdale would add to the southwest corner, westerly,
To the
Southeast.
yeah, in the southeast, and then there's gonna be mostly the northeast.
Morgan Hill and all of those.
Yeah, so there's three big ones we can identify, maybe a fourth up in the Summerfield, is that John Lee's other one that's out there?
Right.
So there's two big ones coming in, what I see is two, there's one big one going into three already, and then Spring Hill and anything else along Erie Parkway in number one. So even though the growth is coming, I'm not gonna say it's balanced, but it's not so unbalanced that this is.
Yeah, you could tweak those boundaries as it grows and move the
Right.
horizontal line up a little bit and the vertical line over a little bit.
That's gonna.
It's
lead
the
up
smaller,
Grandview.
it's the smaller neighborhoods that are just gonna get moved around.
Cause yeah, that's what's
Yeah.
gonna
Like
happen
every
is
town
like,
school district does it.
Yeah.
if that line moves north, you're gonna like Erie Village and Grandview are gonna shift into different districts.
So we're set, we're talking like we've made the decision
Well,
that
okay,
a neighborhood is only in one boundary, in one district.
That's a good point. Yeah. Because we're talking neighborhood based when the districts may not align with boundaries of neighborhoods.
State and congressional aren't.
that's true.
So
One
which
of our-
neighborhood is split?
No, like we
No, when
could,
they draw them, like they
Yeah.
may not draw them necessarily in line with edges of neighborhoods.
They don't
Makes
care
sense.
that it's a neighborhood,
Yeah, makes sense.
candidly.
Yeah, they'll do by roads or,
Yeah.
okay, so I guess, yeah, that was my concern was just as far as trying to district now, we may end up having to redistrict like every 2 years. Because these developments that we mentioned, they're coming in at different times. So if we, like, you know, up at north, Morgan Hill and Somerville, you said, right? That was Summerfield. Like as those start to fill in and, you know, we might have to shift some lines next in 2 years, and then as Parkdale fills in, we'll shift them back, and then as Westerly comes in, we might have to shift things in and then move it back, depending on like.
Well, it depends on how tight your tolerance is.
That's true.
So we have to decide that. I think we're leaning strongly towards districts.
That's how we get there.
Yeah, I think I think we're all in favor of districts
No, well,
in,
Yeah.
with some considerations.
with considerations.
Because we-
That's, yeah, that's.
Cause we need to figure out how we handle that transition to districts.
I'm sure,
And so, go
well, I'm sure legal will help with
Yeah.
that, right?
on. Yeah, a suggestion is that we don't define the districts in the charter.
No,
And so what we put in the charter is things that, again, within 6 months before the next election, a district commission finalizes districts. And they get approved by the
Why not
council.
just a consultant?
I'm sorry?
Why not just a consultant?
It can be,
Yeah, no, it'll be a
Yeah,
consultant.
a consultant.
it'll just be
That
the,
would be my vote.
Yeah,
Consultant.
and that's fine. I think it will have to be consultants on.
and I think we determined if we did go districts that we wouldn't be defining any lines.
yeah,
We just set the number.
And that,
I mean, we even said.
so things we would have to put in is a few things. How the district gets determined, what is the tolerance for
Redistricting?
for redistricting, and the time frame that you make that decision. Are there other things that I'm missing?
Oh, community of like interest. Do you want to group?
Well, that's the definition of I agree with you, but I think that's a definition of a district rather than you have to redistrict.
No, I'm saying that was one of the criteria is you don't draw a line through a community of like interest or a neighborhood.
Well,
The hard part was defining that, right?
that's gonna be,
Yeah, I think that would be pretty hard to honor. I mean,
Like, am I that much different from people in Erie Highlands living in Grandview?
yeah.
and what you talked about before about if you
Erie Highlands,
if
How
you
dare
do,
you compare yourself?
but if you do put in that constraint, then you will have small neighborhoods moving a lot more frequently than large, I would
I
think.
don't feel like, just a wild guess, I would doubt consultants are used to like having to like decide what common interests are where and have to poll and decide that. I would say
Well,
that they're used to working on like
Population.
population. Here's our population density, here's our number of people, how do we divide this fairly?
One of the considerations here is that like having experts and consultants is not a legal requirement, like the Weld County Commissioners are drawing their own borders.
So,
And it's working out so well.
Just the best.
Go.
so this is out of that Timmins charter, the redistricting commission shall consist of 5 members. Following the initial redistricting of the town into 3 districts, the council shall appoint 1 member resident with each existing district or district to the redistricting commission and 2 members to serve at large. Members of the redistricting commission must be registered, it's just, but basically
They pull from the voters of each district.
yeah, so the first one, because I think this is in their transition, as effective date of this charter, the town shall constitute 1 voting precinct, provided, and then it just goes on with that language, but so at that point, the first time you would want to create more districts, all the members would be at large.
Yeah,
And
cause you have. no
Once they
districts to pull from.
determine, okay, we're gonna do 2 districts or 3 districts or 4
But then-
districts, then the next time there's redistricting, then you would have a member appointed from each of those districts.
So in the Timoth charter, do they have the number of counselors set in the charter?
I think that actually increased.
Or is it built based on number of districts?
No, I thought it said that when there was a new district formed, there would be 2 counselors from that district.
Yeah, I think you're right, I
That was
think
my
we did
recollection.
increase.
Yeah, they would have to come in twos.
Excuse me.
I'm not finding it.
I have to build an expandable boardroom.
We
So,
actually are
Build an
designing,
expandable boardroom.
it's We're designing it with more.
Is it cool if we just officially vote on districts and then figure out how to do it?
I think it's been unofficially decided, right, districts is the way to go.
People, I don't see anybody not wanting districts, but the very first thing is what's the number of initial districts?
But
And
do we have
this-
to decide that?
Yes.
We already talked in length about
I think we
how many
should.
districts.
Okay.
I
I
thought
don't
we
think
voted
we
on
have
that
to,
already,
but I
if we
think
had
we should.
districts, we
Okay.
would have
I think three, I think makes sense.
Yeah,
I think
three
three
with
maybe.
two reps, like you said, you have a little buddy system.
Yeah.
I think that makes perfect sense now.
I think the only,
Is there other?
the only thing would be, do we start with 3 or do we start with 1 and then come in with, institute the 3 districts later down the line, once we're slowed
I feel like we're already big enough that it makes sense to start with 3, and
to start with 3.
if that needs to be redrawn or whatever later, then we have that opportunity then all the same.
Yeah.
Longmont's 3 and there are 100,000 people. They're doing fine.
I was thinking more the other way, we're small. And so each new neighborhood has the potential to like shift the lines or the proportionality.
Ridge or something is similar too. I think they have districts, so. We'll sheet up.
I mean, I know you were also kind of in favor of waiting or like shifting the number of districts based on future triggers. What do you think about starting with 3 and then just building in the redistricting process like you were reading off?
I'm still in favor of 1,
Starting with 1?
starting with 1, but like I said,
Yeah,
I
you're
feel
not-
stronger about even years than I do if we start with 3. So,
Castle Pines has 11,000 people and they have 3 districts.
yeah, that's, I mean, I'm not,
So the small, I think
it was,
3
Okay.
districts works for small and large other hometown or home rule voters.
I don't think the concern is number of districts, right? The concern is just the confusion and having to constantly redistrict, because
Right.
being in Vista Point, where 3 of us live,
And
we
then-
would, we're
and then Grandview.
right, in Grandview, so we're just, those smaller neighborhoods tend to get like moved around a lot, and it's confusing, and it's just kind of a struggle, but is that a reason to not do this now? I don't know, that's,
Someone's got to live on a border, on a boundary. Again, the more I think about it, the less I think it's important to do districting based on neighborhood.
I'll throw out one more piece of information. Louisville, population 23,000, they have 3 districts. And they had a very large neighborhood join in 2010, 2014 that added a couple thousand people in the new neighborhood, and they had to redistrict. Actually, they redistricted in 2010, so it would have come in earlier than that. And it went relatively smoothly in that process. They adjusted the boundaries. It did affect things a little bit, but not so much.
Did anybody notice the state just redistrict?
Yeah.
This last election? Did anybody get bent out of shape over what district they ended in?
Well, I wondered too if
What
they
happened
could,
when your
when
kid
they
got
divide
switched
it,
to-
divide it
to
into 3
the
square
other edge, the
footage
other
with the
school, the
outskirts and
elementary school.
outskirts,
I
like
pulled
which
them
one
out.
was most
Yeah,
affected
we
by
just
new
gotta
neighborhoods,
check
maybe a little
Yeah,
bit
we went,
more.
Get
I
it.
pulled them out.
And then they would be the
Yeah.
ones redistricting,
So-
which leaves the little guys who've been here the longest alone.
But I can't make my own nation here.
We're not gonna be the ones
Satisfied.
doing the redistricting, so.
No, I know,
My point
but-
was, that's a lot more.
But it
of a-
is a good point that the little neighborhoods get tossed around.
I know,
Yeah,
and
they do.
that's why I don't,
I
I'm not in
think that
favor of
was the
doing it by district.
reason, I had initially brought up like the group by common interest phrasing, is cause we don't wanna have to have people like entire neighborhoods jumping districts, so that gives enough flexibility that like it's not necessarily neighborhood based, it's locale based, it's, you know, common concern based, like school districts are also an issue of common concern, right?
But that
Or
could
school
be
zoning.
used to gerrymander,
Or
how you define a common interest.
What interests do we have in Erie that we could find ways to delineate based on geography?
I'm just curious what common interests we're
Period.
talking about, like in general,
think-
like
I know.
I feel like,
Growth.
I think Old Town was really the big
I
one.
mean, yeah,
Old Town
I
was
mean,
the big one, but I
Yeah.
mean, like on the outskirts, the people dealing with the growth with the new neighborhoods coming in.
Yeah.
Although we kind of all have to deal with the new
I feel
growth,
like, yeah,
cause we
we
all
all
gotta get out
kind
of
of
Erie
are.
at some point and we gotta go through that crap. So,
I mean, I'm in Colliers and I deal with all the growth at those intersections in the high school every day and it's not fun, but I don't know that I'd call that an interest as much as like a growing pain,
right.
you know? I don't know.
And there will at some point be a second high school and it'll
Right,
move
things
somewhere
shift and
else.
change,
Hopefully
and
sooner
like,
than
I
later,
just,
man.
I'm very nervous about the shared interest, because that to me leaves a subjective opinion of what a shared interest looks like, and what does it look like to protect that shared interest, and who says that said interest is more valuable than the other interest, and like,
And
to me, that's in the world of gerrymandering, when you're trying to
Yes.
protect
that's what
one
I'm saying,
shared interest over another, because there's no definition of interest here.
people can use that as an excuse.
I think it just needs to be contiguous and all those pretty words we heard before.
Right. And that way it doesn't have to worry about neighborhood boundaries, which, like, is Rex Ranch part of Flatiron Meadows?
And you could look at that too with the little towns getting tossed around, yes, that's gonna happen, but as she had mentioned, it's a growing pain. And my neighbor friend, the lawyer, the biggest thing she said to me is, I don't care how much of a pain in the ass it is, and if it costs more money having to get consultants to do that, it's the foundation. Representation is the foundation of what we stand for.
Getting consultants helps keep politics out of it.
Yeah, I feel strongly about having a consultant versus a commission.
Well, they say they can hire consultants too, at the commission.
Yeah, they
I just feel,
can.
I just
So
feel
it's,
strongly like,
language like that's there, so just,
Hey,
The town can do it though.
they shall,
yeah.
they must.
Shall.
They'll pull a must.
I feel like every shall and must should be italicized and
Alright, so
Districts,
districts, yes?
yes.
starting with 3.
You wanna do a vote or?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Do
Who
a
wants
vote
to
for it.
start with 3 or? Okay. Excellent.
Wait, what?
Okay, so we'll start with 3.
do we wanna lock in at 3 though?
They need to revise the charter if they want to do
Yeah.
more.
If we feel
Okay.
like we grow enough.
So we're
that
locking
we-
in at 3. I feel good about that, I just didn't know.
I think if you wanna increase the districts, the people should vote.
I think, yeah, it would add way too much complexity in the charter and muddle it up if we put in the mechanisms for increasing the number of districts in here.
And it's not that hard to change the charter, you just need a majority vote.
Yeah.
But just say we need another district and we're gonna add 2 more counselors. Ta-da.
Are we gonna put a trigger in there for redistricting though?
Yes,
Yeah.
we definitely.
Yeah,
We
can
have
we
to-
talk about that another night?
Yeah, we totally. Do some that's your homework, you asked, your homework is.
Alright.
Do you wanna throw out a straw man?
Strong
You wanna throw out a straw man, a straw person, whatever you wanna call it?
Straw poll,
If not, I can, but
About
to me, we're talking about the percentage to cause redistricting, I thought.
Oh,
I thought you were back on even or odd.
Sorry, I thought we just moved to that.
no.
No, I was
she's-
asking if we did
she's
it
got-
later, not at this meeting.
I'd be curious of Hillary's opinion of some of these points about, okay, now we're gonna do districts, like,
Yeah,
let's
Yeah.
talk
I
about
think Golden
logistics of that.
had a trigger, but that was the one I remembered in there, it was something like
a
15%.
handful of them had triggers.
Which one?
A handful of them had
Yeah.
triggers, and when we first brought this up, it was our second or third meeting.
Right.
When we
Didn't know
barely knew
anything.
anything. We
We actually-
talked about it and then decided to put it off, so.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to have Hillary here to talk through that as well. We can do our research on those triggers and not decide that tonight.
cause I think now that we've gotten the districts at the very least.
Yep.
That's a whole bunch of cascading decisions that were reliant on that, we can all go back. I don't if I was properly prepared, I'd have a list of those so we could, have those on the agenda for next week, but yeah, we need to go back through now and hit all those points we had that were dependent on district or at large.
On the district note, I would like to, I know I just said this, but I would like to consider removing communities of interest from our,
I am
Just
leaning
say
that
it
way
out loud
now,
again.
cause
I'm all for
Agreed.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
you're right.
It's
I-
it's a lovely thought, but
It
you're
is.
right, it does, it
But it's
it
so
can create
contingent
so many issues.
And I'm pretty sure there's already, I think there was now, no, that's only, there's a law on the books in the state that governs redistricting.
I think that's what
But-
Hillary was talking about.
But I think that, like, the one that, there's, I don't know, I was reading one, I think that one only applies to counties. I'm not sure if there's an equivalent one that applies to home rule municipalities. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what kind of controls we wanna put in there against gerrymandering, other than just the general verbiage of, you know, contiguous, uniform in size and.
For redistricting, there's public comment, right? Could we do some, we were talking about what other comments for water, making it,
Well, if we do,
or we talked about like, you need the, part of the transparency, I think is what we're talking about. So when redistricting happens, you don't,
so if we do district borders set by ordinance, then it would force the public comments.
Correct. That's what we have in here now, by the way.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at what we have in 302 for districts, and there's not a lot based on what we've said so far, but we probably, well, we can say, leave it like it is, that ordinance decides when we need to redistrict. I think that's punting a little too much, is my personal belief, but we could do that.
Okay. Let's see. So districts, all right. We never actually really made that decision on odd or even years yet, though.
No, and I'm really just like, cause I think I flopped.
I'm debating about fucking too.
For what?
Well, cause I'm looking at it from my standpoint, okay, right, like, but you have to like keep the average voter in mind. You literally have to think of the average voter, and I've talked to numerous people and they're all for even years for the simplicity of it. I like the idea of odd years because I like the beautiful idea of less partisanship. Let's face it, it does not matter what year we hold the election, there's gonna be partisanship.
I mean, this last election, yeah, it was an April off-year election, and it's
Totally partisanship.
broken.
So if it increases voter turnout for your average Joe Schmo, and honestly, I've been running like a chicken with my head cut off but we do have an election on odd years anyways, right?
Right.
But those get so much lower.
But they have the less voter turnout, and I think that's what I'm most concerned about is voter turnout for everyone,
Okay.
and that's even years.
Are we doing this only for the, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
are we doing this only for the council or are we doing it, well, the other things can come in any year anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter,
Anyone can, yeah, you can put any issue on the ballot in odd or even years.
yes, so it doesn't matter.
Cause the county always runs one, so we
it
can
could be a
always
special election
coordinate.
in the middle of the year too.
We have the mechanisms for special elections, but yeah, as far as our regular elections, we can do any other non-candidate election in any year.
Right.
Because, and we can always piggyback off of Wells or Boulders. So, and Boulders, I guess we'd have to.
Both, yeah.
I was just gonna say, since we are definitive on districts, I think even years make the most sense because of what we talked about as far as
They're good
narrowing
time.
those pools.
Cause
Good
we
time for
need,
some of these neighborhoods to be built.
yeah, cause I think even years if we're going with districts, right, the number of voters matters a whole lot more.
Mhm.
Because we're segmenting the town. And so if we want better local representation, then I think we would get that better with even years. You get more people voting. And yeah, you might have some of the overshadowing of national election rhetoric going on, but people will vote.
Should we vote again?
Yeah, we can see where we stand. Who's in favor of even years? Odd? Arguments?
Arguments, guys.
Like I said earlier,
Yeah,
I'm still slightly in favor of odd, I'm not upset that it's even,
Yeah, not gonna argue.
so.
That's where I was
We
fascinated.
made our points,
Yeah.
or I made my, I wasn't here.
Ben had great points and they
I'm
were
sure
the
they were
ones
better than
that
mine.
I was not
He would have
for.
swayed you.
Yeah. He did sway me and I wasn't even here.
So, I mean, yeah, that's, yeah.
Okay.
If I was the dictator, I'd pick odd, but I'm not, so that's fine.
Okay. Let's
That's sort of what got me to.
I think this one is also one of those decisions that's not super impactful actually.
No,
Nothing else really hinges on that one.
It's kind of the
the
transition.
transition did, that's a big deal.
But that would be the
Transition
same,
is actually
like, we still
easier
have to
with
do-
even than it is with odd, but I wasn't gonna make
Yes, it
any,
is.
I'm
And it
not,
should-
in my mind, I'm not allowing transition to make any
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah, it should.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Then we also have to, at some point, come back to vacancies.
Yeah.
I think what we have written is also, I think, pretty good, last I remember.
Because of the districting, right?
Because it was assuming districts and,
We already considered that, I'm pretty sure, so.
Yeah, I think Hillary was writing it, because we were pretty strong in favor early, so she just kept it in.
So are
and
we
then
also
the
gonna
last
talk,
part about that is if we're going to just do anything with ranked choice or not, or leave that up to the town.
No, we can discuss that a little later. I think now that we said this, we decided these, let's talk that, sorry,
special election, that's what I was about to say.
I was gonna say the
Deciding that
transition.
tonight, like we had committed to deciding tonight. It
I think
is
so, it was one of our
8:26.
questions.
I
But
think so too.
yeah, I'm in support
Of
of
a-
finishing that conversation.
Okay, let's start with you, middle of the table this time.
Yeah,
I get to go last.
why not?
Yeah.
I am in favor of doing a special election. I feel like if there's any time to do an election, it would be when we have a new charter. And I feel like that would relieve, I mean, I've read, there was one comment notably that felt very strongly about it, and I can understand, like, someone being concerned about someone's term being extended without voter involvement, so
Yeah.
I support a special election for something like this.
I mean, the argument there is like the charter vote is voter involvement, but I'm with you on
Right.
that one.
Yeah, valid, but I wouldn't want anybody to like turn down the charter just cause they don't like somebody who's currently in office and they don't want it extended either. I mean, keeping
Yeah.
that interest separate, 'cause you know there are people petty enough out there, like, that would actually be like, well, no, cause I can't stand another 2 years of this person. I don't know, I just, again, feel like if there's any time to do it, I think, I don't know if it was Justin that had said something about that, but
Clean break.
clean break, yeah. It's ethical to me, and that's where I'm
Candace?
pulling that from.
Yeah, I actually agree. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, should we just vote on this? Because
Yeah.
we've talked this through.
That's true,
And then if anyone is going the other way, then continue on.
alright.
No, this is legit.
In favor of triggering a special election,
Thanks, Brian.
I hate to say it, but when will the special
Like,
election
preach into the
be is the next
All right,
question.
Can I,
24.
November 24th.
No.
April
Oh,
2024.
sorry,
April.
Amy had a question, we'll come back to that discussion,
That's
but
just,
interesting.
I know that, Adam, you sent out your, so, and you said April 2024 for all the seats? Is that what you guys just voted on?
so no,
No.
we just voted on there being a special election to fill the new council. And what we've just discovered is there's a difference of opinion
Okay.
with
Of when that is.
There's because they were elected in April and that's when the term ends.
We have 4 trustees ending their term in April 2024.
Actually,
Okay.
actually,
It'll be the last.
Three trustees and a mayor.
I was thinking there were.
four,
maybe-
because there was an
Yeah,
appointment,
there's-
right?
Yeah, that,
I just saw this yesterday
It
on
is,
the town website.
it is 4. I got started thinking, talking myself into it was 5, because of trustee Hoback, but
Ending in 2024?
No.
I didn't think so. It's Brandon, Sarah,
Sarah,
and Ari and Justin.
And
And Dan.
Dan,
Dan
because he
Hoback.
was appointed,
Yeah.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
appointed
Okay.
for.
right, so appointed, you only
So,
get till the next election.
It's that's 5 people
So
that
you're
you
right.
have to either ask to extend, be willing to extend, or you push forward on this and we get districting done ASAP through an independent consultant who you can give a timeline to instead of bringing residents in.
Okay.
And trigger it at the same time.
Dan is the 26th, according to
it's,
the town
that's,
website.
that is not correct, we just discovered, because he was appointed to fill Christian Van Woudenberg's
Yeah.
term,
Okay.
and it's just,
Cause we have it in our charter too, based on similar mechanisms that if you're appointed to fill a vacancy, you only go till the
Till
next,
the next election.
Right.
not for the,
Which
not the
is
full
fine.
term of the appointment.
I just remember what I had read
So the
and
town
it's double
website's
checked it,
wrong.
so but it's
It
right.
is, it is incorrect.
For me,
And I'm betting Gabby's fixing it probably right now.
What else is she gonna do?
Refresh,
Yeah, refresh.
Okay,
Finish at 5.
alright, before we get started on this, we are at 8:30, so let's take a quick break
Okay.
and we'll come back to the discussion about.
Jot that down.
Wait, hold on, before
I
you
need
make
to
that
go
decision.
fucking.
What else? Decorum, where's your gavel?
Gavel, you guys didn't give me one.
What's
Tommy
after
does?
this? Do we have more after this?
Cause we've gotta talk this, the transition
Yeah, sure.
period and the, I feel like there'll probably
It's gonna take longer than.
not, I feel like it'll be like 30 minutes or, hopefully we
You
don't
know,
go
I'm okay to push through if other people want to, but if restroom breaks.
Yeah, I feel like,
Swear breaks are
Do
needed.
more than 5.
yeah, I feel like that's why we wanted
just
like
knew I'd forget.
8:30 is a good point, cause that's our normal scheduled end time, and just like, let's take a quick break. People can go to the restroom, cause people have been drinking coffee and sodas and,
Yeah, I really gotta go.
let's come back at 8:40.
No, I'm fine, it's like the
9
humming
minutes.
that's making me sleepy. It's like.
I can't believe that we're this far through and I just now
No, can you get through?
learned about this.
The heater exists in here.
It's there sometimes.
We turned it off because
I am in heaven tonight. Usually I'm literally shaking and so cold.
For keeping you guys a
sorry.
little long today.
I feel like I could be doing
My
my
husband
yoga
That-
here.
heater that's behind you is so powerful. I think they don't use it because it's loud and it's
Decision making skills and processes.
Like somebody it's warming, I'm sitting over here going.
Oh my god, sorry. No, for now.
I think there's some changes happening about that age. It's 5 degrees below zero and I'm running around in a tank top going, oh thank God.
Here you go, since I shared with others.
Adam, did you guys lose power on Friday?
You're in 1870.
Like about hours.
So cool.
Helping contribute to that a little bit.
Like, I wanna know where
I
where these
can't-
buildings
I
are
only
at.
got that this week, so I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
where that.
Oh my gosh, I lose track of time. I was thinking it was longer ago
Yeah.
than last week.
So that's like the whole
In Vista
northern.
Point, we lost
Here,
power,
yeah.
but only part of
Colorado.
us.
Oh, okay, maybe it was the Friday
would
before
have
that.
hydro
Oh,
power.
Erie Highland
Yeah.
and minimum lost power. We
Yeah.
lost our,
the
like,
purse.
we lost our cell phone tower
Had a
too.
headache for so.
So like we had no cell service. I thought
See, I don't
Mom
get
was
cell
sitting
service
over
when
there.
our phone's out because
I figured
so
it.
if I don't have like my house internet going, then
Like,
we
I-
have nothing.
Usually
yeah,
for
so
me
like,
it
it's
happens
perfect
when
time for
like,
somebody to come rob me because I
this
can't
past
even
week,
go
we had
online.
like, what was it, like 2
Well, I
days
was
of
like
rain.
walking
Yeah,
outside because it
And
was
that
so
always
eerie,
like
things
gives
were
me a
cut
headache
off.
for some
Yeah.
reason. We have so
Everything,
Everything.
so I was like,
And then
did
we
the
have
Russians
snow.
get our power grid? Did
Yeah,
the Russians
yeah,
get our
yeah.
power grid? That's what
It's
happened.
just like.
I know. I looked out my back window over to like where Brian was,
Equilibrium.
and I was
I'm
like,
pretty sure Jamie.
"Car." I was like, what the hell? I'm like walking around with the only flashlight I could find. Of course I went across the bought lanterns like the next day.
Maybe it'll kick in.
My kids weren't at home, thank goodness. They were with my mom and dad, but my husband was still at work, so I was just like
I used to.
sitting alone and I was like,
Something
dang
in
it.
there.
We crashed TV night, I had the kids, I had no husband, now I can't do that.
Not fun.
Forget it.
I was, my husband
Yeah, so work
works
the
out of the
office.
home on Mondays and
I
Fridays,
keep
usually
some
like those
when I
days.
was
I try to work from home those days and like I'll like cook
I
dinner.
have like an early
because we
flight
don't
and then I
have
go
to
to
get
get
out
sleep
and,
on the
like,
plane and then I
yeah.
have to
I
work
think
when
I
I
actually
land.
have read that
Yeah,
before,
late,
but
it's
it's good to
like,
see
you
it.
know, so anyway, I had like just put the rice in the pressure cooker and like I pressed the button to turn the pressure cooker on and all the power throughout the house went out and I was like, did my pressure cooker just break my house?
Oh.
What just happened?
Like, I know it's a lot, but is it that much? He wasn't running the blow
How's
dryer.
your progress going with your knee there, Malcolm?
It's going good.
Yeah?
I've got 2 more weeks with this brace on and the crutches and then I should be walking.
Fantastic.
Yeah, not too bad.
I almost thought I was gonna need to borrow your crutches today because my 5-year-old was like, Mommy, can you show me a scorpion? And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a dance term where your leg goes behind your head and you like hold it. And I was like, oh honey, I can't do that anymore. And she's like, well just try. And I tried. And then I died. Today, like right before I came
It didn't
here.
end well.
No, it was like on the floor and I was like, oh. Oh, why did I do that? It was like, I pulled from from my hamstring all the way down to my calf, like my whole leg. I was like, what was I thinking?
This was not worth it.
I mean, I could barely do that as like a senior in high school, so I don't know why I thought at like pushing 40, that would be.
To
You
try
get
for
more
so
flexible.
many years.
You get more
Yeah.
flexible as you age.
That's how I'm like every time I get on a
Yeah,
horse, I'm like at one point in my life I was brave. This is terrifying.
Hey, they have bigger Snickers in here this time.
I can't know about things like that.
Milano are good, excellent cookies. Good for dipping in coffee as well. Because they absorb
Didn't
all
call the
of it.
Milano's out, so I can have more if I need to.
Ash ate them all.
Amy, you're right, she changed it.
Now everybody's getting a snack. I need a snack.
What else is she gonna be doing, right? Watching us bicker over dates and.
I think the fastest one though was when she made you guys the sheets,
I think
when
we're
they
doing
made those
really good.
sheets.
Yeah.
Actually,
Hey.
I think there's a lot of respect and courtesy and
I think it's been kind of.
I heard from somebody we got props.
I think it's unfortunate that not all meetings can go as smooth as these.
I'm so proud of everybody.
I mean, I really think everybody's here for the right reasons, that's why.
I think every single one of us told everybody we were running for the right reason, and we stood by that.
And we stood by it, yeah. Integrity, a concept in this political world.
It's funny, like, when I ran, I was like, nobody knows who I am, like, I'm not gonna win anything, like, nobody knows.
You were.
Clearly, I told my mom, I was like, I don't know this many people, how do they know me? But it's funny because I don't even think about it until like I was literally playing in the driveway today, my neighbor was like, hey, how's the home rule commission going? And I'm like, you know about that?
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm actually really grateful that a bug was put in my ear about home rule, because I would have been like everybody else, it wouldn't have even been on my radar.
Yeah.
And realizing how important home rule can be for the town of Erie and how
And
beneficial.
so beneficial,
So
right?
beneficial.
If it's done the right way, this can really be huge.
It's very much past due.
I don't know, with the districts, I would argue that it's premature, I'm just kidding.
It's been decided.
I'm JKing, just
Where's my gavel?
to pull some legs.
I think we're all here and ready to start. Is Gabby ready to start our?
Oh, we don't stop, we can't stop.
Yeah, everything's alive.
Oh, great, so everybody heard our conversation. Super.
Which is great, cause like I'm the way I am when there are cameras on.
I mean, you swore on record anyway.
I
so-
swore on record.
Okay,
Well,
Somebody said they
actually-
couldn't hear it, so
excellent.
now they know for sure. That's what happened.
Don't we have a 3-second delay?
We do now.
Hey Bob, on your email with the transparency link, there's no link there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's weird.
Candace
It's
mentioned it.
transparent, maybe I can.
That is like an epic dad joke.
Oh my
Props.
gosh.
Excellent.
What are you gonna do when this is over? I'm so sad.
We're gonna have to hang out more.
We are.
We'll discuss all the towns
We'll move
things.
this to Erie Social Club.
Right?
We should definitely get together on like election night and like watch this stuff together.
I think we should have a watch party for the night the charter gets voted for. I think that'd be a good idea.
I actually was thinking also of a party for once we finish. Right?
Ooh,
Yes.
I'm down for all the
And
parties.
I'm very willing to,
Oh, yeah.
willing to host.
Can we see if the town of Erie will host it?
Because
Because we were such good kids.
Let's get started so we can finish these.
I'm sorry.
Oh, chair.
I don't have my gavel, otherwise I would have been waiting already. Alright, to answer now like the final question then, as to how we do that transition election, special election. I think Adam mentioned it and brought up the best point is like the April 2024 is the natural end to a large portion of our council already. So it makes the most sense to just have that be the cutoff. Have an election to elect a whole new council, base it, the senior and junior version on number of votes for each district and then just clean break it. I think we heard 2, let's go that one.
I don't love April elections, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense.
And you've made your points there as well. Adam, or Ben.
The name's right there.
That one, which is why.
I like April.
April.
I wrote down my points so I wouldn't effing forget them. Anyways, so yeah, I just figure April makes sense, it's one last April, and it's better than the dirty idea of extending somebody's term. And if, we get to vote on the charter then or whatever, it gets a special election label, which makes it more appealing, right?
Wait a second.
Wouldn't we vote on the charter before that though?
Oh, we vote on the charter before that?
Wait a second.
Wait.
We vote on the charter in 23.
We do.
And
See,
in
I didn't even know
April
that.
24, you don't have enough days to redistrict.
Well, that's,
That's
we
part
need
of
some,
it.
we need some input on that.
Yeah, I think you need 180 days, don't you?
I mean,
Well,
we
we
could
haven't said
make it
yet.
in the transition that it's not required to be 180 days, that sort of thing, potentially.
This is Hillary.
That is a Hillary question.
It's also whether or not we can get consultants lined up in time. And
Exactly.
things like that, so that is a
Potential time.
pretty short period of time, November to April.
Are we allowed to request the town as part of the expense of having us to have them do homework and research ahead of time to make it a smoother, faster
The
process?
board of trustees would have to approve that.
We'd have to request and they'd have to approve, or
I mean, it's
if we
worth
wanted
it.
them to draw
in my
districts in
opinion.
advance, just in
Don't
case.
disagree, it's just a technicality that
Mhm,
we're
really
gonna have to
is.
face.
So the question,
Consider that anyway.
yeah.
For sure.
And I think the concern there is then we're spending money for something that may not be used, right? We may
Right.
spend money to draw districts and then we end up, charter doesn't pass and we don't use it.
I'm gonna say it, one district.
One district for the first one.
One district for the first one.
That gives us a whole 2 years to draw the first set of districts and get it done right.
It just, but that makes it so complicated for then how do you,
I don't disagree.
the whole point is to clean break and now we're moving into districts, so then it's okay, clean break and then
I
clean
have
break
to think
again. I don't know how we would do
So
that.
we could give ourselves the power to do that for the first
Yeah, we could
district.
draw the districts.
For the first one.
For the
and
first
then-
one.
Enforce enforce a redistricting using proper methodology and all of that for the next election for
Because-
2026.
That's not a bad idea.
If we request the consultant to help us draw the districts,
Well, we don't have budget. We have to ask for budget.
Right, we have to ask
You also have to present, the draft charter has to go to the board by May 6th. You'd have to have your districts drawn by then.
Yeah.
so we don't even have 100.
They're done.
Ta-da.
Oh gosh, yeah.
See?
I mean, we could do that.
Plus,
I mean, I'm fine with that.
however though, as much as I am in favor of districts and how that could weigh or sway somebody on the charter, I think us actually drawing the districts ourselves would definitely sway a few people away from it if we were to draw the
Or
districts.
towards it.
Do we have the authority to propose districts?
Yes.
I'm asking.
You do, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we can write whatever we want in this charter, as long as it's legal, really.
Yeah, okay.
And if we put it in the transition period, it becomes clear that it's literally just for this one special
Yeah.
election.
Just to get the ball rolling.
And then,
You have to have a starting point.
What is the process for letting the counties know?
This would be over.
We do,
Just like
we
you're
would do the
saying, one
paperwork.
district for one
Okay.
election.
The
Special
counties
election.
don't do that,
Yeah.
that would be
To show
me
which,
and my staff,
It'd be a
who's in
special
what
election.
district.
would be a special election and
We'll have to worry about mailing out the right ballot to the right people.
we gather all that information from the counties.
They already do
We've done
district
that.
stuff. Anyway.
My,
Yeah, I just don't know how long it takes.
I have a concern, the vote in November will not be certified possibly until December.
Right.
When we do an April election, we are ordering our supplies for
Right.
the machines. Our ballots have to be sent to the printer. All of this has to be done by usually January, we're drawing for the order of the ballot of candidates on the ballot in January. So
I don't.
That's a very
that's
short.
very short,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think, I do not think we could successfully hold a special election in April.
So
We could
Yeah.
probably do one in
Like, what if we
June.
did one in, June, I know I spoke earlier against extending, but like extending by a few months, I feel is like a lot more nominal than extending by a year or two or more,
What about just
so.
extending to November?
That's
That's what I was
until, yeah, I mean,
thinking.
like, why can't we just wait till November, cause even that's not a,
I think the hard part
Significant.
is there's 5 people who would have to accept that extension, or there's vacancies
For
for the Board of Trustees.
Cause their term ends in April.
6 months. Be 6
And the mayor, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's, the less you ask of them,
Is 5 okay?
If I
the more willing they may be.
Right.
Oh,
that's
because
definitely
Mr.
better
John was
than a year and a
reelected.
half.
I knew it was
Yeah.
5,
Two and a half.
right, I mean, I don't know, I kinda feel like that's the
Myself
best
out.
compromise we have at this point, to go for November and give us plenty of time to, I mean, if the charter is
Yeah.
voted in place, it means we've got a year to prepare for that special election.
Yeah, and if it
Wait,
loses,
wait.
then they are done and we continue with regular.
Then-
Wait, but November, if we go to November, we're asking them to extend their trustee position for 5 months.
For 5 months.
If we go in June or July, it's only 2 months.
But it's
Yeah, but
a
it's,
special
I mean,
election.
it kind of feels closer we get to November,
Why not
We
just do
go-
We
November?
might as
why
well
not
just do
get the
November
better
and
turnout,
not
get the
yeah.
better, you know, just.
spend as much
And
time.
the expense.
Yeah,
And the expense and the, you know, I mean, we may lose some members, or we may not.
Well,
They may all say, we're in and
so then
5 months.
which rules apply to a vacancy? Is it statutory rules or home rules that apply to a vacancy that gets opened up by
I think it'd
trustee
be
of
home
PD?
rule because
If home rules passes,
home
it's
rule
okay.
And what are our home rules for vacancy for
I think
this
we could,
situation?
I think we could write it in the transition, vacancy rules for, like, previous, won't
that-
come into effect until we have an election under those rules. And so we could say.
Because the understanding of the candidate or trustee council member would be based on one document, not a transition document.
Yeah, cause today to be in the April election, when do they have to file the paperwork?
That I don't know, that's the part I
Okay.
haven't been involved with, but it would probably,
I can find out.
well, actually, no, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I have the dates wrong. January?
I thought I thought the deadline to file for candidate for April was like January or
And
February.
it might be January and we draw for position on the ballot is, but they have, they can pick up their,
When did we do our drawing? I wasn't there, but
None of us were at the drawing.
I was at the drawing.
You were?
we had a couple.
I didn't realize
Adam, do you have your information from way back when?
Well, not in my head,
Cause it would be very close.
I think it was, I remember getting my paperwork in, it had to be in by December.
And I think we,
Right,
And they drew like early January, because everybody's stuff was in December and you
Yeah,
were
they-
able to do
yeah, but we still have to have the ballot draw in order to
do
get our.
signature verifications and stuff like that.
And to get the names on the ballot and the ballots
yeah.
printed.
Right.
We have,
so-
it has to be the first part of January.
Which means that, it seems totally unrealistic.
It's
We would have to, we start planning in November.
Yeah.
Our planning schedule starts the first week in
Yeah,
November.
it's just,
So, and we would
So
be
you'd
doing the
have to start
results.
planning based on unofficial results.
We'd have to start planning based on, and that, well,
you have to have two plans.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we're already gonna be planning for a regular election in April. Because
Yeah,
If
if
the
home
charter
rule doesn't
doesn't-
pass,
we're
well,
still,
that's very true. You're right.
Well, that's a good
Oh,
point.
yeah.
But you're not planning the election for everybody.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we
Because
are.
the-
for a lot of people.
The
No, there's two council positions.
Right, but the
It's still
process
it's
from
still
that
the
point of
same
view,
ones.
getting your like the only thing that would have to
Still-
change,
You're right, we still have to plan for an election.
but the thing is, the thing that would have to change is the deadline or the candidate pools. Because if we're doing an at-large
Versus district, right?
That's.
versus
I don't
district,
think.
you can't, unless the very first special election
100 days before.
is not
That's
based
the
on
November.
district lines.
Yeah, I don't think,
Timeframes.
I still don't think there's enough time.
It's the days that matter, I think.
So that would, then we go back to the,
Start with one,
unless we draw them.
unless we, yeah.
This we don't have.
So that's
we have
pending
to
that
do
we-
But see, even then, like, I'm worried that would actually be like, it would, like, if people don't know for sure until December,
Yes, he's 60 days
whether
before the election.
they
But that's
can
based
run
on them
for
doing it.
April election.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
That's a really compressed time, cause they won't know if they're in a right district to run.
Great, so could we,
They could prepare, you could have people thinking about it, like they'll have preliminary results, they'll be like, look, based on this map or some version of this.
what we
maybe like-
could do is have the April election and then have a special election in November.
Under the new, well, no, we have a regular election.
We have the regular election, but
For
it
basically
may
6
only
month
be
terms.
I
for
was gonna
7
say, yeah,
months.
some of those, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
that's not
would-
gonna be an authentic election, cause who's gonna wanna run knowing their term
In
Yeah.
6
ends
months.
in 6
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, well,
I would do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all.
Maybe we should run and do that for the short little term.
Sorry.
I'll take that for 6 months and then I'm out.
If it's $80,000 to run an election.
So either we try to do it in April, where we would have run an election anyways, or wait till November.
And if we wait till November, like, do we have to do an election in April, or
No.
can our transition include skipping our April election?
It can,
and
and a coordinated election is approximately half.
So it wouldn't be necessarily a special election, it would be
It would be a
the
new
first of
election.
its kind election in November, but it would be half the price of,
But again, you get
And
to
plus
the
you get the
5
clean.
people whose terms end.
Yeah.
But you get the clean cut in November.
and if they
Yeah.
don't wanna finish
Well,
their
that's
term, they have a vacancy, I mean,
There's up to 5 vacancies on the board.
but how
which would be
long?
really.
Triggers
Which would trigger a special
How long is if a vacancy occurs within 180 days of a regular election, it doesn't trigger a special election.
But there wouldn't be an
There'd be
election.
nobody to
There was
There
no,
wouldn't be.
but the election would have been 2 years
I think
before.
we need a board that's not 2 people. The city can't function with a 2-person.
No, it can't.
I mean,
No,
maybe we
can't,
need to
yeah.
ask, but we can't rely on an answer.
They told us,
Yeah.
they basically, there were 2 comments in person saying, don't worry about the transition, about what happens to us, do what you have to do what's right for Erie.
I do wanna say though too, is there's something to be said too, if we start with the one district and then, you know, that's everybody at large, and then there are 3 people from Collier's Hill or whatever voting on how, you know, well, we'd get a consultant on the district, so.
But that's my
That's what we're-
question is, if you, let's say
I know where it
this
is.
was our board or something, you have 3 people in the same neighborhood, when you move into districts, does everybody just get a 1-year term when you're in that first year? Or does everybody
No,
get a
we
2-year
said,
term?
I thought we said that the highest voters would get the longer terms.
What
But we would all be in the same place, in the same neighborhood, so we would all be in the same exact
So it
district,
defeats the purpose of the districts.
of going from 1 to 3.
I think we go with our own drawn district, so what are the numbers on those, Lisa?
33, 33, and 32.
Those are also based off of Parkdale and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
these
true.
are at their
There's 3
estimated.
neighborhoods in there that are based off of 1,000, which were
I think we'd have to,
Parkdale, Morgan Hill, and Spring Hill.
I think in my mind, we would have to go off census data. If we went off of anything else, it would be,
But I mean, we've had a
Too much.
huge shift even in
We
2
have.
years.
Yeah.
we have. But since no one can argue with census data.
Alright,
So
so
are
you do
we-
one
If we're
district,
drawing districts,
Yeah.
I'd say it has to be census data.
so what scenario are we talking about drawing districts? Would this be proceeding with an April election and drawing
Yes.
districts? Okay,
No, I thought we were saying,
But like-
it's too late to do an April election.
No,
well, I mean, that's.
we would have to do one regardless.
No, but not for districts.
We can,
But
I don't think
when we run the thought experiment of doing it with a single district, it gets harder. You start, then you start having these strange situations you have to then accommodate.
But you don't
So-
know, by the time people have to decide to run, you don't know if the charter is going to pass.
Yeah, what is the filing deadline?
I'm trying to look it
I'll
up.
go get my computer.
Okay, cause if we can get, if the filing deadline is like after certification of election, the candidates would have time to know that they can run.
It
you think
all
people
feels very rushed, of
decide at the
course,
last
and
second?
uncertain,
I don't.
I don't know, like that just feels like,
A little rushed.
It
it
seems
feels
very
yucky,
rushed.
like it just doesn't feel like we're doing
Like-
things the right way,
like
if we're
something
pushing
shady
it
is
that
trying to be
much.
pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other option is potentially not having a council.
But, well, I mean, even Adam just said, like, don't, worry about us, like, do the transition how you
One
have to
would
do,
hope.
and then like, yeah, one would hope, I
One would
mean,
hope that the existing town trustees would be like,
We can hang on for 5
we can hang on for 5 more months.
You know, we can hope that.
can't,
I think we can put in a provision, like a special vacancy filling provision for this period, where it would be like, at the resignation of a council member, they would participate in the vote for the appointment of their successor. That way, if you have 5 people who all decide they're done in April, they would help appoint.
they would appoint the council, the
Well,
remaining.
resigning is you resign all of your responsibilities.
Right, and that's why I say this would be like a final act, like if they're resigning in this portion. We're basically putting a legal requirement on, if they're gonna resign during this period, they are obligated under the charter to help
Is that fair
appoint
then?
their.
Or what if the remaining
Well, to help
council
appoint their
members
own,
appoint, I mean,
appoint their own,
Why don't we ask them
cause it,
how they feel about it, and if we have most of them would say yeah, if most of them say yeah, we'll stick it out for 5 extra months or whatever, then we can put something in like that just in case, but knowing that we're probably not gonna have to do that and make it unfair to them.
By the way, it's January 24th is when the petitions were due.
yeah, see, that's plenty of time.
Oh.
So before I forget, guys,
They were available
Sorry.
January
No,
3rd. I'm sorry, yeah.
no, it's fine, I just wanna throw it out there before I forget too, so if we like enact the charter, it's effective like immediately, and
Yeah.
we were talking about raising the compensation, so if you break that down, I mean, we haven't decided on a number, but we were discussing raising it. That
It
could
would
be
go
another initiative to,
Stick it
Stick
out
it
for
out,
5 more
right,
months.
they're gonna get paid better.
I mean, unless we put in the provision that it doesn't come into effect until any councilors elected under the charter.
I think if they're willing to stick it out for 5 more months, if it helps with the transition, if it makes it smoother, if it makes it less rushed, I think they're entitled to whatever that is divided by each month or whatever. I think for that 5 months, they would be entitled to that, in my
I'm
opinion.
not opposed, yeah.
And in fact, they're not the ones voting for it. So it's not like they're changing their own.
It's not like they're changing the rules so they can make more money.
But it gives them an
Exactly.
incentive to
So
stick it
I
out.
found
But it
it,
gives-
sorry.
Yes, thank you.
January 3rd is when the packets were available, and January 24th.
So I was
is when
wrong,
they
it
were
wasn't
due.
December, it was
Oh,
January.
you guys all found it while I was gone?
Sorry.
We really appreciate you doing that.
Made you run to go get.
I rode the elevator.
Master.
But I can get more, I'll have more, this way I have all my election information, so my apologies, I should have.
No,
That's all right,
no,
thank you.
we didn't think this,
Yeah, like I said, if I had been more prepared, I would have realized what we would need to decide as part of this decision.
so the packets are due January 3rd.
They're
I'm sorry, are
available.
available January 3rd.
Is this our upcoming April election?
It was this year's, it was the 2022.
22.
So the days will be the same.
It'll be close.
Roughly the same.
Okay.
So I mean, that gives them enough time, so if we draw the initial districts, that gives the town enough time to conduct the election they were already planning. Just with new district boundaries instead.
And what we could do is make that election,
Hold on, question there. You said you ordered the ballots printed, oh wait, you can't print them until.
No, we have to order our machines and such.
yeah, you can't order until you know who's running,
Yeah, exactly.
and you have the draw. So, which will have to be probably beginning of February.
Yeah.
Could we make this election go until November of
2024.
24 or 25?
If we're gonna do an election, I don't think it's worth it to do a special election just for 8-month terms or 6
That's why I said
months.
or 25. I have no trouble making it, but we wanna move it to November,
Yeah,
is
but
what I'm thinking.
we're even years, so it wouldn't be 25. The next regular election would be 2024, 6 months later,
Right,
or 2026.
that's
That's too far for,
pretty far off.
so, I mean,
Now, I do have to ask. What if those district lines are challenged?
I don't love
Because
the
they're
idea
not-
of drawing them. I'm very hesitant for the
Yeah.
same reason. Like, what if somebody doesn't like the district line, so they don't vote for the charter?
Yeah.
Because they don't vote for the district. They're challenging it. They,
Or
yeah, they
they-
don't
yeah,
like the
they-
way we came up with it. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah.
any of that.
We
There's
came up
just,
with it,
like-
exactly, we came up with it, therefore, no.
We will make sure that we say that Lisa did.
It's always, sorry, I interrupt.
No, no,
I agree
it's
though.
all my
I
fault.
agree.
It's Lisa's fault if the charter doesn't pass because of our lines.
It's just one more option.
You have a very
Okay,
angular
like,
name, you
no,
can
yeah.
write
So,
the
no,
district
I don't want
boundaries
this,
as
like-
your name.
You could, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Sorry,
I mean,
any,
yeah, I agree. I don't know how to draw districts. I don't want to know how to
Yeah,
draw
and I
districts
don't-
at this point.
I don't yeah. I think we're not the experts on districting.
We don't have time to hire a consultant to write.
And it's easy to be challenged.
And there's legal mechanisms for all of that. So, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just like, cause I'm still hoping I'm realizing the cadence of all of this.
Yeah, it would be nice, no, okay.
Alright, this is probably gonna be unpopular.
Go ahead, man.
One district, until you get to 2030, so you can use census data.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Fair enough,
Too
I'm just-
long.
Too long.
I just,
I think that maybe we go with the do it proper, we ask the trustees to stick it out, the current ones. We do have to talk about what the vacancies look like, but you know, if they're willing, we ask them to do it, or we put it into the charter that these ones that are currently here will actually get extended by 5 months or whatever it is to get to a November election. It's cheaper and it gives us time to draw the districts properly and
Well-
conduct the election properly.
And we can word it in that they must seek out, you know, a consultant or whatever, do we need to break it down like that?
But for the drawing of the districts.
When did you say you need to order the election machines?
I'm actually trying to find that. But Ash is correct. We can't act, if it's before we can't act like the charter's going to pass. If
No,
it's-
I know, but if you have to order them, if you don't have to order them until after the election's certified, it makes it easier,
No, she said beginning of November.
beginning of
I
November.
believe it is. I am
She's looking,
madly
so.
trying, they've cleaned up the files and I'm madly
So
trying.
what's the consensus in the room of trying to make it work for a November election?
I'd rather a November.
I'm gonna go on
I
that.
think it's too difficult for April.
Yeah.
I'll go for November.
And you're right, it does feel rushed, like,
Yeah.
Literally
the
sticky.
residents don't like to feel rushed.
Yeah.
So wait a second though, so we're voting on this charter this April, right?
No,
November.
November.
Jesus,
We presented
November
in
of this
April.
year.
we just have to have
We
it
have to have it
done.
done.
April's next month.
Yeah.
We're voting November of 23.
We won't be here in November.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah,
Yeah,
we're
just a
voting
couple
November
more months.
23, the next election would normally be
April
24.
24, but
And then
if
it's
it
the following
passes, it'll
April,
be-
okay, thanks, see, my squirrely brain.
We're talking of
That's
making
all right.
it November instead of April, so we
It's
have
getting
time for
late.
professionals to draw the districts. That gives
Yeah.
it,
I think that makes the most sense, cause we're not professionals, the only way we can do an April election is if we draw the districts and we don't want to.
Right.
So the only thing that really makes sense is asking the current sitting trustees whose terms will expire to extend to November. Conduct a regular full election under the new system. And the only provision we'd have to account for is the person with the fewer votes in each district gets the 2-year term.
That's it, and it's easy, you can understand that.
Yeah, it's super simple, that's what I thought we would, I thought everybody was gonna be like, yeah, and then you guys were like April, and I was like, oh.
So the only
Because I
issue
lined
is,
up with our regular election, so I
Which
was thinking
makes
that.
sense, yeah.
Cause there is there's a serious concern of if everyone leaves, that triggers a special election and everything kinda gets thrown to hell,
Yeah.
so.
Well, no, what is the
we-
current procedure if we have
There
too
is-
many
there would be an
vacancies?
election within,
You become,
Board appoints them.
so
The
like
board
if,
decides what happens.
so if 5 leave, then 2 get to decide who's on the board.
Yeah, if 5 leaves, you don't even have a quorum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It
So-
triggers, it triggers
we
a
said
special
5 minimum.
election.
But
For
under
some
the new
things.
charter, what about the current provisions? Like what
Under
happened?
I think under the current, doesn't it trigger a special election
statutory.
when you have 3?
No, there's no trigger. It just becomes,
So if your
There's
entire
less than
board leaves right now.
that was
you
one of the
guys
other
don't know
towns you
what
said,
to
what
do.
happened
No,
there?
we know, that's, yeah,
You're right.
Let's not speculate on it. It's not
That's
gonna
when
work.
those emergency procedures come into play, so we're pulling, you know, the town
that's when-
attorney and the judge, and we're pulling everybody.
that's
That's
when
when-
You will
I
definitely
know
get
it's
a lot of
fancy.
attention.
That's when Malcolm takes over the town.
that's when Malcolm retires.
Then Amy gets the town.
One more vacancy.
I do think
Listen.
that if we go to these 5 folks whose terms are up and ask them if they would consider continuing for 5 months, I feel like probably most of them, if not all of them, will say yes. And that's enough for us to take their word for it, we'll put something in just in case.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's enough for us to move forward
I
with
think
the
the
November,
best we
December.
can do.
They're probably
Right?
listening, they're probably listening and laughing.
I'm throwing middle fingers at
But like, one of the things that Sarah brought up that makes a lot of sense is whatever we do for the increased compensation, we can make it effective on certification, so it gives them that incentive to stick it out.
Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Or at least effective as of the date of their, when they would normally,
April,
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
I think that would make sense, cause they'll finish their term out with whatever they would have made, and then they get the increased until we can elect their
So
replacements.
the risk
Huh?
is, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
the risk is paying for the machines if we don't have to.
I found my information and, we did the agreement in January for the machines and then the ballot stuff, so I mean, and we have to still plan that way anyway, so we
Yeah.
would get them lined up saying, we think we're gonna have this election, are you on board? So that should not be a consideration for you guys.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
but it does help us save that, sorry.
One consideration, you had talked earlier about having the terms start in January of the year following the election, so the election's in November 2024, the new
Oh.
terms.
Oh, that would
start in
actually,
Yeah.
So the transition period,
So it'd be-
Is that
It's just
transition
2 more
a little
months.
bit too much?
Yeah, it's.
2 more months more.
or we could go back to the transition period, say it's the first of the month after the election certified.
Yeah, but
So
the
it
reason
could be
we did it,
December.
the reason we did it the other way was because it's usually in the middle of budget season, remember that consideration?
Yeah.
So it allows
Yeah,
one,
rather.
it allows one board to finish out the budget.
Yeah.
And then when the new one comes in, it's kind of clean in January. I think we had good
Yeah.
we had good discussions around that one.
Yeah. I don't foresee any of the 5 members just being like, nope, sorry y'all, or
2 months.
up a creek,
I
right?
say 5, but not
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, right. I would actually be incredibly shocked if they were like, nope, sorry, we're done.
I definitely don't think all 5 of them will. Maybe we'll lose 1 or 2, but I don't think all 5 of them will.
Well, since Dan's in a shorter term anyway, there's probably a reasonable chance he would stick around. I'm not talking for him, but.
Sorry, Sarah?
Who is responsible for putting the idea of home rule on Erie's radar? I mean, the town,
current board.
the current board. Why would they not pursue, or not, stick through with an easy
Oh, wait, not the
transition?
current board,
Board
it was
pretty
the
much
previous board.
rubber stamps
Yeah,
the
the rubber-
charter
they
that we
don't-
give them.
Yeah.
No, she's talking about who is the one who initiated the process that we're in now.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
the
the current
board
board.
put
Yeah.
that on the.
It was the previous board, right? It wasn't the current.
No, it was this,
It was a current
it was this board.
So,
Yes.
I mean, why would they not,
Why would they then, do something to potentially sabotage?
You're right. So I don't think
even if we don't pay them more?
I don't think we need to belabor that point, cause like Candace said, if we just, assume we extend it and then just put in the just in case provisions on what happens if people leave. Cause it's not gonna fall under the previous provisions and won't fall under the new selections, cause we don't have the fallbacks to fall in, and we don't wanna trigger a special election, cause that was the whole point of avoiding April. So as long as we put in like special vacancy provisions that apply only during the transition period, and then extend till November, so their terms would extend until January.
Candace
We've
brought
done-
up,
and I- yeah,
sorry.
I said we've done the best we can do.
Right, Candace brought up a good point, why don't we just ask the board, can we call them
can't-
into one of our meetings, or should we show up to one of theirs, or?
We can't take their word for it, like, it's just,
Yeah.
we
It's
assume
not
they're going to.
binding.
Yeah, it's not
Well, we
binding.
can, it's not
But
binding,
it's
but we can
being
get their opinion.
recorded,
Yeah.
if we have a meeting.
It's being recorded. We have proof.
Take that up to Hillary, but I think it gives us a good idea, right? It gives us a, like, I don't feel like somebody would be malicious and be like, yeah, I'll stay, and I'd be like, I'm not really gonna. Certainly things happen, life
Right.
happens, and there may be a situation where somebody has to, pull out on something that they had.
Sorry, Bob, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, by the way, I think Candace, so someone asked about Jim's email or comment, Jim Pendleton, about legality of extending terms, so I went, exchanged some emails with him, and he's okay now, and there had to have been a court case somewhere, because it's in all the charters,
Yeah,
so, and he was okay.
it's cause we set the terms, and so the charter wants to set new terms, we can do
We
that.
could write a charter that says terms are 15 years.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a good charter,
No,
but we could write.
I would vote against it.
Yeah,
So I think we have a lot of power
Yeah.
that we are using responsibly.
I didn't see it though in Article 20.
Yeah.
Lisa, I don't think you weighed in on the transition, like timeline,
I have,
okay?
I have.
Are you in favor of the,
I'm in favor of all of it. No, I'm kidding. I think actually, I agree. I think November makes the most sense. We're not feeling like we're rushed.
yeah, cause I mean, while it's technically possible, yeah, it doesn't seem like the cleanest or most, and like the whole reason we're doing this is to get better representation, right? It kind of goes against that if we seat the new council in an April election.
Yeah.
In a rushed
I
April,
think it's
which
the
is,
smoothest thing that happen, and we can trust the trustees.
And it'll allow the redistricting to be done by professionals who know what they're doing.
100%.
Which takes that off of us, and I think that's important.
And more importantly, challenge,
yeah,
being
Yeah.
challenged.
I don't know how to draw a map that wouldn't be challenged. I mean, they'll all be challenged, but at least people who know what they're doing can draw one more ironclad than we can.
But you did a great job.
Yes.
Watch them draw exactly what you drew.
Take that home with you tonight. Take that home with you tonight, seriously. Oh, man.
That'll be
We could have done-
After the meeting, you'll see Amy like.
Is that now an NFT?
Oh my god. Still, that's.
So we're gonna deal with vacancies next time, right?
I'll sign it. I'll be happy to sign it.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't think, alright, I don't
What's
think
up
we're.
to 20?
They said 15,000, I thought, now it's up, if you sign it, it's up to
Oh,
20.
nice, okay.
Alright, I think we're in a good place to pause for tonight, cause there's a lot more decisions now that we have to make, at least as far as now we have a better idea of even year elections with 3 districts and how we're gonna handle at least the,
Dominoes.
yeah. So I can take a crack, or unless someone wants to take a crack at writing up how we just discussed the transition period would go. I can try to type something up and send that out.
Lisa's shaking her head no.
Can Amy do it?
Done drawing. No more.
If
Or
you
does
want
she
to.
need a basis of where we're going?
No.
Yeah, it would not be me.
Yeah, it would be Hillary.
Not Amy, Hillary.
Okay. Like, not me.
Amy, get
I
on that.
can bullet point it out and send it to her when we are, or, yeah, I'll bullet point it out and send it to her tomorrow.
I have to ask one thing about term, or are we gonna have term limits for current
members cross over?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I thought we talked about
would
that.
probably, I mean, I'll give my opinion since I just started talking.
I was like, dang it.
I would say they would, trustees and councilors are different, so their terms would start when they're elected in November.
Yeah,
So-
I think we'd have to, like, as far as the clean break, I would say,
Effectively
'Cause-
starting at 0.
cause it also introduces weirdness, cause like the mayor only served 2 years.
Sure.
And under the charter would be 4 years.
Yeah.
So does their 2-year term count as a term, as a prior term?
No, I mean, it's, the
I would
argument
say
can be
yes.
made either way. I mean, that might be something that
That's a transition.
people say, I'm not gonna go to this charter because I don't think, we've already had this person for a term. I don't think we should have it for 2 more terms. They can come, they can do 1 term as a trustee, 1 term as a counselor, take a break, come back in 4 years and do it again if they want.
I'm not too worried about it personally, because if people really feel badly about or against it, they would vote for the other person or somebody else.
I don't know, we can,
Anyway, I
that's a
just
good
wanted to bring
question,
that.
yeah. We can bring that up when we're
Yeah.
going back through the term limit section, doing our overview. So, I think going through, I guess, moving on from here, I think that was the last major bit of new writing we had to do. So the next 3 weeks, 3 or 4, 3 weeks on the schedule, I think are all set aside for general revisions. So, yeah, everyone's homework now going forward is to go back, do full reads, and start answering the questions we've got pending and the ones that Hillary's left in the comment section. So I'm trying to figure out the best way we can structure the meeting so we're not just all like firing random questions from random parts. So-
Okay, next week we have the planning commission and
Oh, yeah, that's true.
2 sections.
Right, next week you've asked Kelly Zuniga and Sarah Nirmela.
If we're gonna talk campaign finance, I would recommend reaching out to Paul Hoftailing. I know he's on the airport commission, but I know that is the role that that's what he does professionally. Is campaign finance. So if we're talking about bringing in people who have, that's what he does.
Okay.
Is that something we want, yeah.
So
I'm
next
just
week,
saying,
like,
I'm just saying if it would be possibly beneficial to have someone who is a professional who lives and breathes campaign finance to provide feedback.
are you familiar with him?
Very.
Okay.
I worked for him for 4 years.
Okay, can you reach out to him, let him know if he's willing to come or just at least provide his feedback onto what we're trying to do?
Public comment as well.
That's what I,
Yeah, ask him to put in on the form, send a form for all of us.
Next week's not one of the weeks.
No,
Cause he would be at his board meeting then.
no, I think if you ask him to put in a public comment on the form we all get and we can discuss it, cause I'm not sure how much back and forth we'd have, cause it seems like a pretty cut and dry, like as far as the requirements or what's possible. If he thinks it would be beneficial to come talk to us, let me know, we can try to get it on the schedule, but for, not probably next week, but maybe the week
Right.
after. Next week, we still have it as general business, right, just we're gonna talk with her, or
The only topics we have on the meeting schedule are to discuss planning commission and campaign finance, and we can just post it as review the entire charter, because both of those are in there that you talked about, so then that would be the only
okay,
general business topic would be reviewing the charter.
And then
Well,
we could do
yeah, we
those 2 sections first, so they could leave if they decide they want to.
yeah, of course, I think that would be best. Then as far as what I think we wanna discuss, I'd say let's go into all of the kind of election and elected official related stuff. So like everything about, specific to the districting and how the elections will be run and the transition period for vacancies and things like that. So just rather than section it out, I'm just gonna say general topic we're talking about is the election related things that are all directly related to the decisions we made tonight. That gives us a fairly broad level of, what we wanna cover. But it'll at least be in a single topic, so we're not context switching back and forth. Sound all right to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Then I think recap of drafting decisions, 3 districts, even year elections, and extending terms for the currently sitting trustees until 2024 or November, and then conducting a regular election as our first home rule district-based election.
2024,
November 2024. Alright, and my homework is to write up how that'll look and send it to Hillary for review as well. And then campaign finance,
Already talked about.
and I think that's it. Did anyone, I don't think I assigned anyone else homework.
You signed us all homework
Yes,
technically.
everyone has homework.
You just gave some people extra.
I just wanna thank everybody for the discussion tonight, because it was really good, and I hope you didn't take what I was doing personally, 'cause it wasn't.
No, not at all. Well, and likewise, I don't mean to interrupt anybody, I quite literally just conversation and I'll forget my point of it. That's what I have a notebook for though.
Okay, I think we're good then. We're adjourned.
She's signing it.
Yes.
Alright, so when they come back with exactly that, and everybody's like, I don't like these, we're gonna be like, Lisa signed it.